Hello, or re-hello to everyone. Good afternoon. Very pleased to see you again. I'm very happy to accept this invitation. I would like to pay tribute to Madame Aguilou, who is here from the IUCN. Very pleased. The IUCN-Mediterranean chairman, the General Secretary of the FFEM, the French Global Environment Funds Facility, and Monsieur Charmod. Thank you very much for being with us as the beneficiaries of the small initiatives program of the FFEM, which the French Global Environment Facilities. You know, we have signed a partnership amongst these three entities for Central Africa and the West as well. And we are here to show you the interest that we pay in these programs and the interest we have in these international programs. And in particular, I would like to say how pleased I am of this, pleased I am to have the State Secretary of the Ecological Transition Ministry here with us, and the millions of euros that are being placed in it, and financing civil society and of the southern countries in terms of nature protection. And in Central and Western Africa, in the last two phases of this PPI, the Small Initiatives Program, for biodiversity, wildlife protection, there are community areas as well in Benin, and enhancing agricultural products in Cameroon. We also have a European Community project in Ghana, and protection of tortoises in Gawen for the islands of Santa Lucia, and preservation of gorillas and chimpanzees in the Republic of Congo, the Congo Republic. As you see, there are lots of varied projects with the stakeholders, very committed indeed, and I wanted to congratulate you for the realization of this program. You know, the French are involved as well. The value chain as well, sustainable value chain for protection of biodiversity on the international level, that will be debated at the COP15, and on the national and regional level as well. We're looking at 30% of the seas and sea level rising as well. And we launched several projects in January as well, and there are 70 members in this coalition. This just shows you how very interested we are on the international level as well. And one of the priorities of France on the international level is the genetic diversity of species, local initiatives, and native peoples. We use their knowledge and traditions, and this shows how crucial this is in our work. Of course, you are also involved in deforestation and the problems it generates. And in next January, with the European Union, France will be supporting a lot of these programs, and within this Small Initiatives Program, and working on the methodology of all of the action that is being deployed. And I wanted to thank you for this. Now, with respect to the quality with the IUCN, the French committee of the IUCN, I think that we are all very attentive, all of us who are here today, in the capitalization of doing what we can in these two regions and consolidating these programs and the long-term aspect of these programs. And there is financing being looked at with the various donors and financiers within the European Union as well. And we have a lot of encouraging news coming from that end. Thank you very much once again, and I congratulate your dynamism for this initiative, and I will be with you right to the end. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Minister.
Bonjour, buenos días, good morning. Excellency Ms. Benjarina Abba, Secretary of State to the Minister of Ecological Transition in charge of biodiversity. Ms. Maud
En charge de biodiversité.
President of the IUCN French Committee.
Président de IUCN, Comité française.
Secretary General of the French Global Environmental Facility.
Secrétaire général du FFEM, Linda Mason, de la Fondation les représentatifs de la Commission du ministère de Transition écologique, toutes les agences françaises, les bénéficiaires du programme de petites initiatives d'Afrique du Sud, tous les participants. C'est un grand plaisir et honneur pour moi d'être avec vous aujourd'hui ici à cette cérémonie de signature des petites de ce programme de petites initiatives. J'aimerais ici, je tiens à remercier tous nos partenaires français depuis 2014 dans le Centre pour la coopération méditerranéenne et d'avoir mené ces programmes dans les 4 pays africains, Tunisie, Maroc, Libéria, Nigeria. Donc, comme vous le savez, ceci a été très bien accueilli par les 4 pays bénéficiaires, les agences et associations. Ils ont pourvu beaucoup d'accompagnement et on a reçu 470 propositions de projets et 80 vont bénéficier d'assistance et d'accompagnement pour la mise en œuvre des projets sur le terrain. Nous aimons consolider les réalisations des projets qui ont été facilités auparavant et aussi de donner la force aux associations d'Afrique du Nord de pouvoir mettre en œuvre les tout premiers projets et renforcer la capacité de renforcement et l'échange et quatrièmement de promouvoir le réseautage avec le secteur public et finalement de capitaliser et communiquer sur les ressources. Nous sommes sûrs que cette nouvelle phase sera aussi réussie que la première phase. La PPI maintenant fait partie des programmes importants de l'Afrique du Nord et nous sommes fiers du réseau qu'on a établi avec nos partenaires. Avec le FFM, le AFB et le ministère de Transition économique et des Affaires extérieures.
Donc, worldwide. We would like to
UICN
convey our deepest
mondial
thanks and
aussi.
gratitude.
Nous tenons
I would
à
like also to
remercier
take this opportunity to
très
thank the MAVA
chaleureusement et
Foundation.
j'aimerais remercier
Linda, thank you
aussi
very
la
much,
Fondation
which
MAVA.
has
Linda,
also
merci
supported
beaucoup,
the
qui a beaucoup soutenu les
PPA since its
PPI au
inception,
SCAN
and the
depuis son
Sinvit Browsing
inception,
Trust Foundation, which has
ainsi que
joined
la
the
fondation
FFM and the
qui
MAVA to
a
finance the third phase of this
rejoint le
program.
FFEM
Let's
et le
continue
MAVA.
action together
Donc,
for a
continuons
strong,
notre action
effective,
ensemble
and
pour
efficient
une
civil society in the Mediterranean.
société
Thank you very
civile
much.
forte, effective et efficiente. Merci beaucoup. Madam Minister, Madam General Director, Deputy General Directors, ladies and gentlemen, I am so pleased you are here today to celebrate the 15 years of the PPI, the Small Programs Initiative. And it's been 15 years since we went to see the French Committee of the FFEM for funding that could be accessible to small environment companies. And this is true today, that most of the financing was accessible only to the governments, the large NGOs and large public entities, and it must absolutely be accessible to other areas and entities that also do great amounts of work in this. There's also the environmental protection and biodiversity associations, and they are now seen as being legitimate, and they are looked upon as being, they're accepted more and more by the public. And they support a participative approach for local municipalities, as well as different committees, women's committees, and even other smaller committees that aren't really recognized. They do excellent work and efficient work throughout their respective territories, and they work with local stakeholders and elected representatives to influence the general party. And so for us, they are extremely important actors and stakeholders in what we do for biodiversity. And of course, we support and assist them in terms of building, capacity building, and in other areas. We wish to thank the FFEM very warmly for having launched in 2006. It's taken 15 years for them to generate sustainable effects, and there were 190 associations, local associations, and 130 countries in Central and West Africa for 14 million euros, and this really has become a dimension that has surpassed all of our hopes when we began 15 years ago. Of course, this is accumulated with other, because a lot of grants are used as levers for project bearers. And there have been a lot of concrete projects, a lot of projects that have had concrete results. Governance structures and organizations, for example, there are hundreds of projects regarding protection, environment protection, and there are 22 economic sectors involved as well for protecting the biodiversity, and the chairman had reminded us of this in her introduction. We would also like to congratulate the MAVA Foundation. This comes in addition to all the rest, and has worked since 2019 with the FFEM in coastal countries of Western Africa, and Senegal, Cape Verde, and others. Also, we would like to thank the IUCN-Mediterranean section for having worked closely with a lot of our actions and moving forward on the African projects. And this is part of the collective action. Of course, I cannot end my thanks without speaking of all of those who have worked closely on the experts who work within our teams, for some of them more than 10 years, and Paul and Nicolas, who know all of the stakeholders and actors of the PPI, the French and Ayers, and Aurélien, who works on a daily basis with the NGOs out in the field. And of course, it's so important to work right on hand and to have someone on hand working closely with the associations. And finally, the other partner of local NGOs of the PPI who place their trust in us, especially some of them who are very complicated. Of course, I won't even mention this recent health issues that we've all had to face. So thank you, and continue as before, and working in the field and close to those involved. Thank you, Madam Minister, Madam General Secretary, Madam Deputy Director. So in this phase, of course, next phase of 4 years, at the next IUCN project, we will be looking at the emergence of new projects for the PPI partners and strengthening the restoration programs, which are part of the dimensions of what we do as well, and capacity building for influence and working with the private sector on these programs. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all three of you. So it's been 15 years, as Maud put it, 15 years that the FFEM has supported the PPI initiatives. PPI are, so we've been working about these initiatives with the support of the Ministry of the Ecological Transition. Thank you, Madam Minister, for being here. We've been also working with the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Consequently, we are particularly proud to sign this new financial partnership with PPI. As Mo said it, these programs have given results. So Mo and Gretel gave figures for both programs, but there are over 300 projects, and 80% of the 270 NGOs involved are still active. They are growing. Their capacities are growing, and these NGOs help preserve their local environments. They provide us with expertise, and they can influence policymakers for public policy. We are proud to sign this convention, and because we still need to support local environmental NGOs in the Global South. We are delighted to have such partners, such as the UICN. Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar, or thank you, Mr. Troya, to sign this convention with us. And we've always been supported by the French committee of the UICN. So thank you, Maud, for being here with us to sign this convention. I would like to thank many other people, as well as all our partners. Finally, my colleague Lydia had to go, but I would like to thank all those who have chosen to back us financially. So I would like to thank the MAVA, the Sigmund Trust, who has just joined us. So now we are really happy to sign the sixth part of the PPI and the seventh part of the PPI OSCAN here at this World Congress. So this is at this great occasion. Consequently, I would like to invite you to sign the convention, to sign 2 copies of the convention. And Madam Minister, please turn around. You will need to sign at the button on the right page. And now we will hear the testimonials of beneficiaries. There will be a video about the capitalization of PPI initiatives in Central Africa.
Les pêcheurs sont revenus de la pêche et ils sont revenus avec des prises. Et l'idée, c'est de voir dans quelle mesure en fait, c'est bénéfique pour les stocks de poissons du lac. À la fin de l'exercice, vous aurez une vue sur les pêches du jour. Plus on est dans le vert, ça veut dire que les stocks de poissons, les stocks naturels ne sont pas en train d'être impactés, d'accord, mais plus on va tendre vers le rouge, plus c'est dangereux pour l'avenir de la pêcherie et donc de la biodiversité. On est là, ici, super. Donc on est bien encore dans le vert.
C'est un peu qui passe par
Pour nous, les succès de la conservation, ça passe par l'adhésion des communautés locales, parce que c'est ce qui va assurer la pérennité des activités entreprises en faveur de la conservation de la nature.
Il faut que les solutions et les actions proposées soient très locales, parce qu'en fait, ça va être les solutions les plus adaptées à une problématique environnementale, sociale. Et donc, c'est la raison pour laquelle plus on est proche du terrain, plus on est proche des problématiques de terrain, et plus on est à une action ciblée, meilleurs seront les résultats.
Une des caractéristiques principales du PPI, c'est qu'il focalise sur les jeunes associations, les associations émergentes. Donc le PPI, pour eux, c'est une opportunité pour qu'ils aient leur premier projet de terrain.
Le dispositif de gestion du programme comprend 2 directions. L'une, représentée par le Centre de coopération pour la Méditerranée de l'IUCN, situé en Espagne, est en charge de la gestion des projets en Afrique du Nord. L'autre, représentée par le Comité français de l'IUCN, gère les projets subsahariens. Le PPI a financé plus de 300 projets à ce jour. Il apporte des subventions d'environ 30 000 à 40 000 euros et destinées à des organisations locales, récentes et ancrées dans un territoire. Pour la plupart d'entre elles, ce sont leurs premiers projets. La philosophie du programme est particulière. Elle pourrait être résumée par « former en faisant ».
Notre projet, c'était vraiment un projet de création d'une réserve naturelle communautaire. Et donc, avant ce projet-là, on était tout jeunes. On n'avait aucune expérience en matière de conservation des ressources naturelles. Je continue à être un peu surpris de qu'est-ce qui véritablement a permis à notre partenaire de véritablement nous faire confiance. Mais je pense qu'en nous, il y avait quelque chose de profond. C'est-à-dire qu'on était peut-être pas très expérimentés, mais on était quand même passionnés. On avait une vision, peut-être qui n'était pas facile à transcrire, mais qui était perceptible quand même sur le terrain.
Naturellement, ce sont les grandes organisations qui vont capter les financements et il n'y aura plus assez de financements qui pourraient bénéficier aux petites et jeunes organisations de la société civile. D'où l'idée d'avoir des guichets de subventions spécifiques dédiés à ces jeunes petites organisations de la société civile. Elles sont bien ancrées localement, elles ont une certaine légitimité, une efficacité que n'ont pas ou pas toujours ces grandes organisations.
Un des objectifs est donc de soutenir ces jeunes organisations locales afin qu'elles soient en mesure de porter des projets en dehors du financement du PPI. Le programme consacre environ un quart de son budget au renforcement de l'organisation elle-même. Et avec une innovation importante, cet appui commence dès la rédaction de la proposition pour obtenir la subvention.
Il y a une première étape où il y a eu la proposition brute, l'idée de projet elle-même, ce que nous avons soumis. Et quand le bailleur s'est dit, attention, ça c'est quelque chose d'important, qu'il a envoyé alors un expert pour nous aider donc à toiletter, à en faire un document assez potable.
Le coordonnateur nous a appuyé à élaborer un bon cadre logique, les objectifs spécifiques, les résultats. Donc c'était aussi un appui. Et nous, ça nous a aidés, puisque maintenant, nous sommes capables d'élaborer n'importe quel projet et de pouvoir respecter les normes en la matière.
Au sein de notre équipe, on a une répartition des rôles extrêmement claire. On a la chance de bénéficier de l'appui de 3 coordinateurs qu'on appelle les coordinateurs régionaux. Leur objectif, c'est vraiment l'accompagnement, mais ils ne font pas partie du processus de sélection des projets.
Un des enseignements de cet appui à la proposition est qu'il installe une relation de partenaire plutôt que de bailleur à bénéficiaire entre l'organisation et le PPI. Les coordinateurs PPI sont au cœur de cette relation. Ils sont installés sur place, à proximité des projets. Il y en a un dans chaque pays pour l'Afrique du Nord et un par région pour l'Afrique subsaharienne.
Il faut que les activités soient réalisables en fonction du budget et en fonction de l'agenda. Donc souvent, il y a beaucoup d'échanges lors de la première année pour le choix des activités, pour l'exécution, pour l'agenda et ainsi de suite.
Nous coordonnons le programme de façon verticale, bien entendu, donc entre l'échelle programme et l'échelle pays, mais nous travaillons aussi de façon horizontale, donc dans nos propres pays, où nous jouons ce rôle donc, de trait d'union pour faciliter les appuis institutionnels localement.
Mon positionnement a très rapidement été de se mettre dans un rôle de facilitateur à qui, et c'est important, les organisations font confiance. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a toute une dimension qui ne relève pas du technique, qui relève bien de l'attitude et des caractéristiques de notre relation entre les organisations et moi.
On est passé par là aussi.
C'est sans doute un des enseignements principaux. La réussite du programme et des projets repose en bonne partie sur la qualité relationnelle, particulièrement entre les organisations et le coordinateur, mais également entre les coordinateurs et le siège. Proche des ONG, le coordinateur les conseille et les aide à leurs demandes. Et cette philosophie de former en faisant s'accompagne également de renforcement de capacités tout au long de la mise en œuvre du projet.
Mais la différence avec le PPI, c'est qu'on met l'argent à disposition et il y a tout un pan, n'est-ce pas, où on discute avec le PPI pour savoir, pour identifier, n'est-ce pas, les points sur lesquels nous aurons besoin, n'est-ce pas, de renforcement des capacités.
Dès le démarrage du projet, un diagnostic est effectué sur les capacités et les compétences des organisations et elles sont invitées à suivre des formations spécifiques.
Dans le cadre du PPI2, nous avons 4 formations. Nous avons déjà fait la formation en gestion administrative et financière. Nous avons fait une deuxième formation en communication. Troisième, elle va être une formation en planification stratégique. Donc, toutes ces stratégies d'accompagnement des associations est très importante puisque ce sont des formations thématiques qui assurent tant à la fois la durabilité de projet, mais en même temps la durabilité de l'association dans le sens où ces formations, elles leur sont bénéfiques même après dans leur vie quotidienne en tant qu'ONG.
Au fil des ans, ces appuis se sont affinés en fonction des besoins des ONG. Ce sont désormais des outils indispensables à la prise d'autonomie des organisations et de leur pérennité. De plus, le PPI a su faire preuve de flexibilité pour mettre en place cet accompagnement sur mesure. Selon les contextes et les acteurs en présence, l'engagement des citoyens va de la simple consultation à une véritable implication dans les projets. Dans tous les cas, leur adhésion au projet est une condition indispensable à sa réussite.
La communauté fait partie intégrante de la réserve. Pour pouvoir réussir le défi de la conservation, essentiellement c'est les communautés. Elles doivent participer à la conservation. Et le travail que nous faisons, c'est d'arriver à les responsabiliser pour la conservation, afin qu'elles comprennent que les richesses naturelles, c'est pour elles, c'est pour la communauté et elles doivent travailler à sa conservation.
On n'était pas vraiment acceptés, donc au début il n'y avait pas une tolérance des agriculteurs, ils n'ont pas apprécié l'idée de travailler avec les associations, mais petit à petit avec la communication et grâce à l'enquête qu'on a fait, donc on s'est introduit dans la zone. Donc on a 3 agriculteurs qui sont des anciens partenaires à l'association. Petit à petit, lorsqu'on a commencé les activités chez ces 3 agriculteurs, l'information elle se propage et donc on a réussi de commencer le travail.
La capitalisation a mis en évidence l'impact positif de ces projets sur la prise de conscience des enjeux environnementaux par les citoyens. Les actions de conservation nécessitent la coopération des autorités publiques, qu'elles soient locales, nationales ou régionales. Mais les relations des ONG avec les autorités sont différentes dans les pays d'Afrique du Nord et les pays au sud du Sahara. Pour le PPI OSCAN, la coopération avec l'administration est presque systématique.
Il faut savoir que le PPI OSCAN, nous avons 2 partenaires publics clés, le ministère de l'Environnement et aussi la Direction générale des forêts. Nous exigeons même parfois la signature de conventions avec les autorités publiques locales.
Et parfois, comme en Libye, les actions de conservation portées par les ONG du PPI sont un des rares domaines de dialogue entre la société civile et le gouvernement.
اللي جينا حاضرين في ما اثرش بالعكس زاد ائتلاف وزاد ربطنا مع بعضنا يعني الموضوع هذا يعني موضوع ليبيا يعني موضوع كجهات متحاربه مثلا قوات عسكريه لكن ماليش علاقه بالموضوع اللي هو البيئه ما ياثرش بالعكس الاجراءات كلها تمام السفر المشي الشغل ما فيش تعطيل بالعكس يقدمونا في المساعده يقدموا في المساعده بالعكس احنا معانا طياره عموديه تطلع من للتصوير يعني ما فيش في المغرب العربي كامل ان الناس يعطوك طياره مروحيه هليكوبتر باش تمشي تصور بها في مشروع PPI اوسكان يعني باش تمشي تصور بها.
En Afrique centrale et de l'Ouest, les autorités publiques sont généralement en retrait.
Il faut dire qu'il y a une certaine démission des autorités vis-à-vis de la conservation. Déjà démission vis-à-vis de la réserve de biosphère, puisqu'elle a été créée avec elle, mais abandonnée tout autant par ces autorités locales.
En revanche, le point commun aux 2 zones est que la puissance publique dispose de très peu de moyens pour l'environnement et l'intervention de l'ONG tend parfois à se substituer à elle pour organiser l'utilisation des espaces publics. Le PPI encourage des liens entre les ONG. La plupart du temps, les relations s'établissent de manière informelle, d'une organisation à l'autre, assez souvent impulsées par le coordinateur.
Il y a des coalitions qui s'organisent, il y a une entraide aussi, un partenariat donc, entre les associations qui sont proches géographiquement et aussi entre des associations qui travaillent sur la même thématique.
Occasionnellement, le PPI organise des forums auxquels elles sont toutes conviées, comme au Cameroun en 2016 ou ici au Maroc en 2019.
L'atelier actuel, donc, pour lequel on a invité toutes les associations bénéficiaires au niveau des 4 pays, donc ça sera une occasion pendant ces journées aux associations pour s'échanger sur leurs projets, sur leurs thématiques et identifier des cadres de collaboration futurs.
Les associations, encore sans grande expérience, sont demandeuses de contacts et d'échanges avec les autres ONG. L'échange de bonnes pratiques entre pairs et la construction de communautés de pratiques relèvent pleinement de la philosophie du PPI. L'appui du PPI dure en moyenne de 15 à 20 mois et le renouvellement régulier des aides ainsi que le renforcement de capacités permettent à ces organisations d'être pérennes et d'inscrire leurs interventions dans la durée.
Quand c'est réussi, il y a à la fois la prise de conscience et la prise de confiance, non seulement d'une ONG ancrée dans le terrain, pas du tout exogène, et puis probablement c'est la meilleure légitimité pour qu'ensuite ça essaime, ça diffuse et que l'ensemble des riverains d'un parc ou des villageois puissent se retrouver, se reconnaître dans une action qui est initiée par un des leurs.
Le Pavilion, je pense qu'il nous booste, il nous donne une dynamique qu'on ne nous connaissait pas en fait. On se rend compte qu'on est capable de faire des choses et qu'on peut convaincre surtout et qu'on arrive à avoir en fait notre place en tant qu'ONG parce qu'on a un objectif derrière et qu'il y a un soutien aussi, un accompagnement.
Formerly, it was all about Emmanuel. But now I see that even tomorrow I'm not there, the organization will never die. And that is something that I'm so proud of.
Le lamentin doit sortir combien de temps, après combien de minutes pour respirer? 15 à 20 minutes.
Aujourd'hui, le PPI a montré qu'il était efficace et méritait d'être poursuivi. 15 ans après son démarrage, près de 8 ONG sur 10 continuent leurs actions de conservation avec d'autres moyens financiers.
Au moment d'envoyer les mesures hors de l'eau et que le tapis s'y bloque, ça va les empêcher de respirer.
Thank you for staying until the end of this video and to have watched this video that we have created about the PPI and the PPI OSCAN. And now we must give the floor to those who are on the ground. I think that if we were to listen to all PPI members, we would spend the whole afternoon on this subject. We could talk about it for hours, but here is Naija Bouraoui, the president of the Association for Protecting the Environment and Sustainable Development in Biodiversity, and Guillaume Tati, the president of the Association for the Conservation of Great Apes in Central Africa. So now we will listen to them, to their experience, and unfortunately we'll have to conclude this session right after. So first of all, now I am turning to Naija Bouraoui. Can you tell us a few words about the what do we take home from this experience with the PPI? Thank you very much. That was a really positive experience, and we were honored to be selected by the PPI to receive funding and for our project, which is about the preservation of medicinal plants. We are based in a rural area that is not really interesting for regional and national authorities. So we turn to this project to promote the local national heritage, a really rich natural heritage. And the area we chose is the preservation of medicinal plants. There are many in the areas, but no one takes care of them or pays attention to them. We created an ecotourism scheme and a training center in order to promote and ensure the sound use of medicinal plants. And we also now focus on the scientific specificities and characteristics of these plants. So now we also raise awareness and disseminate information. And this center can be used by all the other actors, that is administration, locals, local schools. There are school trips in our center. And this center is well equipped, and it has been used by local authorities. So that was our first success, and we were really delighted. And after that, we chose to engage national, regional, and local authorities, to engage with them. We have turned towards local stakeholders. The local authorities came over to inaugurate our center, and we also created a good relationship with local communities. They supported our project and even they allowed their wives to come and take part in our activities and trainings. As members of the association and experts supported us, and we have created great friendships with local communities representatives, and all those who came to the center could then acquire knowledge, and they now know how to respond to the challenges specific to managers when they launch a project. And so we had this project that granted us a lot more visibility on the national, regional, and local level. Indeed, the media came over. We were in the media, and we also published all the results which we've achieved along with other regional and international partners. All in all, this was a really positive experience, a relevant experience. We are really grateful for the help provided by the PPI OSCAN team. We also obviously thank our financial backers, because they believed in us, in the capacity of the association about the North Africa.
A nice round of applause, because this lady does represent the women, and this witness account comes from the OSCAN PPI. And now, Mr. Guillaume Tati, you are the director of the ESI and in charge of the protection of the apes. And could you tell us how you have been able to take advantage of this support? Well, yes, you're talking about a bit of support. It's a huge bit of support, I should say. Well, it's very specific, actually, what I do, because I'm both a director of a small local association a few years back, about 10 years ago, and it was created in 2009 that had identified an area for conservation, and we started to work on it and started reflecting on it, and then we were very pleased to come upon the PPI project, though, and in 2012 we had we were able to start working, and in 2012 we were able to work with a very first international entity that actually believed in us, and we worked with local entities. We had a lovely project. It was pretty, and the person looked at it and said, well, look at, your logistics. You can't do this. It's not going to work. But the project is really wonderful. So, well, look what we're going to do. We will do a 6-month test, and you know, we're going to believe in you. And so this type of a risk that organization really counted for them, and it worked. So we realized that we were placed in a training session to study how to mount a project, and this support enabled us to grow until we were able to work with 6 other organizations at the level of, you know, the Central Africa. And now today the ESI-Congo was able to even surpass what it started with, and with its experts and expertise are starting to be known internationally and even nationally now, because unfortunately, you know, civil society where we are doesn't really isn't involved very much. And so here we had these donors who really believed in us for once, and we were able to have more visibility, we were better known, and we had more and more power, and we were more credible and empowered to work and carry out proper projects. And of course, you know, now that when we started calling this project the Small Project Initiative, the PPI, well, I'm telling you, you know, we started with 6,000 euros, and now, that was in 2012, and today in 2021, so 6 years later, I can tell you that we can manage budgets of 100 to 150,000 euros. So that's just to show you the progress we've made. And so this is, you know, we're very serious about this, but I must say that if we didn't benefit from the PPI program, and this experience really left a mark on me, because it's not just a project oriented aspect, it's they're all correlated or linked to the, you know, projects of associations, and once they can mobilize their network of actors and action to be taken, you know, then you can move forward. And this is something that, you know, our donors really believed in. And so thank you once again. Thank you to all of you, all those involved, Thomas, Nicolas, etc. Yes, thank you, Guillaume. Wonderful. Yes, you've gone a long way, haven't you? So now there's something that comes up. I call all of the NGOs and ONCs that have taken advantage of the PPI program. We call it the PPI community, etc. These are the small project initiatives and or program initiatives. So the words that come back often is that, you know, we've become friends, we work amongst friends. I'm quoting these: we are stronger, more visible, we are better guided, and also someone had said that thanks to the activities around medicinal plants, that women share their knowledge amongst themselves, but also with others and other countries, other ONGs, perhaps, I don't know. But I just wanted to insist in my conclusion on the importance of being linked one to the other. And of course, what better image than our logo? Okay, our logo's not working. Oh, it's to be. I wanted to show you the Marseille IUCN logo, and but I don't know if some of you know Marseille, but the logo, as you see, really it actually was inspired by the museum with the wonderful architecture, architect Miotti, a wonderful architect who did like lace made of concrete, and this is well known. It's become a motif that is being known. It could be assimilated with coral or the dappling of the leaves in the sunshine. So it's a very strong image, and this building that's looking off onto the open sea offshore, and of course what's happening in this conference and our PPI community. So what it links us together, you know, whatever links us shouldn't crush us or make things uniform and without any specific characteristics. So this is important to see how it's well aired. It's nice and airy, and you can see how the light comes through it. So this lace is wonderful, and I really like this image and what it represents. So of course I can't help myself. I've got the mic. So how I was wondering how to say PPI in English, small initiative program, or so, which is like SIP, sip, you know, a sip is to have a good sip of something and to savor something. So that's not bad. So, and then also in archaeology, we call an inventor someone who discovers a treasure, a little, you know, a gold nugget, for example. And so if you do EPP, it means inventor of shared nuggets, if you wish. So we can play on the words here in French and in English. And so long live the PPI. Thank you. Yes, now for this year, you've got your QR codes for capitalization, and you can download them or upload them in French, English, and Arabic. And the film as well that you saw, the documentary, is online as well, so you can watch it again. Thank you.
Welcome to the ceremony. We're going to launch the Artisan Trophies called Promoting Nature-Based Solutions for Climate Change Adaptations. Thank you all for being here at the Congress as well as online. So how did we come to create these trophies? They are here. So what's at stake? What are the elements of convergence between the biodiversity and climate change adaptation objectives? What are the criteria according to which we will make a selection of the best applicants? We will answer all your questions. My name is Madame Langevin. I'm here to drive and to organize this ceremony. And here is Yves Le Trionnaire, the director of the ADEME for the region.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are here to launch this trophy for the adaptation to climate change, and this forcibly makes us look closely at the issues for biodiversity and climate change. Of course, I know this is said a lot, but it doesn't hurt to repeat it. We are faced with the alerts by the scientific committee and community, and this way we have a clearer notion of the impact of the ecosystem and on society, and we can even see and we can feel the trends taking place in terms of climate change. And the other piece of information is that even though if today we change our gas emissions drastically, you know, we still would have to really commit ourselves to adaptation. And of course, this is all in process. it's overtaking us, actually. All of the flooding, for example, recently in Germany, and forest fires that just are devastating for our biodiversity. And this is essential for the reservoirs of biodiversity, and it is absolutely urgent for us to act and take a stance on this because it's over the long term, of course. We have to adapt and anticipate climate developments, develop the impact precisely to the changes that we're going to have to prepare, and to look at the conditions we should create to be that are required for the solutions to be set up. And this is all over the long term, of course, and how to act. Of course, we have to make sure that all of these sites aren't too disrupted, and so we have to anticipate our action and, of course, monitor it as it goes along over time. This is an issue for everyone. There's a lot at stake. A lot of actors and stakeholders are already mobilized in this sense, and they have to highlight and enhance these practices to convince all of the stakeholders. And in France and worldwide, there are actions being conducted. We co-organize with the OFB that I greet here, and also we work within the Artisan project and nature-based solutions as well that contribute in an efficient manner to adapt to climate change. And of course, we have to look into the economic and social impacts and environmental as well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much, Yves Le Billionaire. And now for we have to look at the policies of climate change and implementing the Life Artisan project. And now I would like to introduce Maître Laurie, who is with the OFB. Can you tell us a bit about what nature-based solutions are and how we can be mobilized to adapt to climate change? Well, nature-based solutions are actually actions that are conducted on an environmentally friendly basis, really, it being advantageous to society and biodiversity at the same time. So it was adopted in 2016 at the World Projects of the IUCN, and the IUCN published standards with indicators, and we all along the project we will be trying to stick to these. And the concept is new because it links conservation and preservation of biodiversity to a specific societal challenge. It is actually it comes from the expertise regarding restoration and protection of ecosystems, but also it acts as an alternative and a challenge, for example, for dikes and rock fills, channels being built, etc. The Life Artisan European project was designed to improve resilience of the territory to climate change by inciting nature-based solutions. Of course, explain that, please, Matilda. Well, yes, this project is it emerges, from the will of the organizers to face climate change, and also the second aspect, which is the biodiversity, of course. And so how can we do this with nature-based solutions? It's 6 million euros to create the conditions of implementing these projects. we're not the only ones. There's the ADEME, French Environmental Agency, and a lot of other partners as well. Some are seated here with us today, and of course the Goutier syndicate as well, and the MISEM as well. Mathilde, what are the resources that the future candidates and applicants can use? Well, we have a series of pilot sites, and they deal with different types of impacts: erosion, flooding, surge, etc. Impermeability is waterproofing, and these pilot sites, we can contact them firstly. They all have an internet website, and we can set up a system of monitoring and assessment that can actually show how sturdy these solutions are and how good it is for the biodiversity. And on the next slide, we see other resources, very precious ones, human resources, group leaders, for example. Some of them are seated here with us, and you can contact them. There's the website and the OFB. Through the OFB, you can contact them as well. We have a framework note that exists already that explains the adaptation to climate change and nature-based solutions, as well as the ministry site for climate change. Thank you very much. And you see, this is how we see how the Life Artisan project is part of all of these. Now we will ask Aurélie Tailleur to answer some of these questions. You are mission coordinator for the ADEME, French Environmental Agency, and their Life Artisan project. Well, what we have seen are reports, and one of the reports we continue to develop, even if we are reducing emissions. But, you know, in France, that's the case, and some of the impacts are developing faster in France than on a world scale. For example, higher temperatures. Over the 20th century, France has seen a rise in temperatures more than on the world level. So there are more droughts and dry seasons as well. So also there's more and more precipitation at times, so there's more flooding as well. And in some regions in France, we can also have a rise of the intensity of hurricanes. And so we see this, it's already visible, and it really already is starting to impact our health and activities. So there are also different impacts throughout the entire territory, depends on the location, social and economic aspects, cultural aspects as well. And not everyone or everything has the same level of fragility and vulnerability. And this all has to be taken into account. Also, what we've mentioned already is the impact of climate change on ecosystems. And climate change is the third factor of erosion of biodiversity, and it's the ecosystems usually can provide solutions. For example, trees, for example, it breathe and they give shade, etc. And so there's also capacity of water retention, and trees help us in a lot of ways. And I would like to encourage all of you to do what we can to improve this situation. and for preservation of biodiversity. Yes, Aurélie, what are the criteria for selection of applicants and what are the awards for this trophy? Well, what are the objectives, first of all? Well, the aims of this contest is, so that the stakeholders and actors throughout the territory be mobilized and, work on the ecosystems and acknowledge the impact on the ecosystems in order to incite other stakeholders to take action. So actually when I say the stakeholders or actors, everyone's involved. Especially those who can be project bearers for adaptation to climate change. It could be universities, national and agencies, ONGs, different associations, ministry agencies, etc. And so now what are the types of actions that are rewarded? Well, we have chosen to orient our awards to 3 types of approaches, and this way the various stakeholders can take a different approach, each and every one. One of them would be to reduce climatic impact with respect to a given impact on a given territory. For example, flood risk, marine surges, etc. And dry seasons as well. Economic sectors as well are impacted, and economic actors and stakeholders are asked to maintain certain activities. They'll have to change their practices in order to do so. And this way they can reduce vulnerability, they can seize certain opportunities as well. For example, in the tourism sector, they could perhaps see that for ski resorts and the lack of snow, they'll have to just convert their activities. Also, we have to adapt to resources and the various milieus in order to improve the resilience globally throughout the territory using nature-based solutions and looking at functions that can restore, for example, aquatic ecosystems, marshes and ponds, improving ground quality, soil quality. And that way you can look at various issues, water management, etc., forest, mountain, a large range of activities that can be undertaken. So the 3 categories now, can we have these criteria?
So what we want here is to target projects, maybe projects that are still underway, but what we want most of all is our projects that already have had results on the ground. So projects that have already made an improvement to biodiversity. We also look for projects that could be interesting in the way they were implemented. We look at the data that was used, at the stakeholders involved, and at different other factors. We also focus on sustainability and the sustainability level of actions that are undertaken. What do the projects do to ensure sustainability? And lastly, we want actions and measures to be reproducible. We want to be able to translate these measures in other areas. So if projects want to send their application, there are 3 phases. So first of all, when we receive the application, we assess if we assess the application, and then we examine each application again. During the third phase, we choose the winners, and there are also audiences to talk with the nominees. And now about the awards, there are different types of awards. So there is a national conference that is organized so that we can promote the different stakeholders, so they can interact also and share their experiences. In the end, we will promote the winners beyond the conference with videos and different other publications. Thank you very much, Aurélie Tailleur, for talking about for presenting these trophies. And now we will give you several examples of adaptation actions that were ecosystem-based. And now I turn towards Frédéric, the Director of Research in a laboratory called INRAE. Frédéric, thank you for being here with us. And there is also Abdelhalim Ouramoun, the head of the Department of Purifying Stations in the official National Office of Sanitation of Algeria, and who has partnered with Union for Mediterranean and Plan Bleu. Good afternoon, Abdelhalim. Can you hear us? You were recognized last July for implementing a pilot ecological system to filtrate urban areas. And in order to do this, you use sand. So your project was selected to fight climate change in this arid area. Your solution is really simple because it aims to protect water resources and to improve plant cover, vegetal cover, in order to combat desertification and to enhance local development. Dear Abdelhalim, we can't see you. Your image is frozen, but maybe you can hear us. How did you come to turn towards a green solution based on filters rather than towards a so-called gray solution? Can we hear you? Is it possible? Can anybody hear Abdelhalim here? We don't. And now I'll turn towards Freddy. So what are the sectors in which this green solution can be implemented to assist territories?
Ces domaines, ils sont nombreux. Hein, les SFN, elles visent de nombreux défis sociétaux, souvent été rappelés, donc notamment l'adaptation au changement climatique, hein, les SAFN. Et puis donc Anne-Sophie, là, vous parlez de solutions vertes, donc bien qu'on est en opposition à des solutions, en l'occurrence grises. Et voilà, ces domaines, ils sont multiples. Il y en a notamment, moi je pose la question, où est-ce qu'on trouve du gris dans notre quotidien? Automatiquement, moi je pense aux villes, et je prendrais volontiers l'exemple d'une cour d'école. Combien de nos cours d'école sont encore bitumées aujourd'hui? C'est-à-dire qu'elles sont même pas grises, elles sont noires. Et on sait bien ce que ça provoque, notamment la formation d'îlots de chaleur. Donc, un des domaines d'application de ces solutions vertes, c'est justement la nature en ville. Comment? Tout simplement en végétalisant les cours d'école, Aurélie en a parlé tout à l'heure, faire de l'ombrage avec des arbres, créer des îlots de fraîcheur pour qu'on puisse s'adapter à cette augmentation des températures qui sont inhérentes au changement climatique. Et puis j'ai envie de dire aussi, parce que vous parlez de différents domaines, que si on fait ça, autant aller jusqu'au bout de l'action et puis en profiter également pour traiter l'eau de pluie. Il y a des problématiques de dépollution avec les eaux, mais on a aussi des problématiques de gestion des eaux de pluie. Et bien sûr, nos cours d'école, on peut aussi mettre en place des solutions vertes comme des noues, des jardins de pluie, qui sont des zones végétalisées qui vont absorber l'eau, lui permettre rejoindre la terre directement, et ça va permettre de désengorger les réseaux d'eau pluviale. Voilà. Et puis un petit mot aussi pour dire qu'il y a des solutions qui sont des fois ni grises ni vertes. Par exemple, mettre un revêtement en dur qui soit de couleur claire, c'est aussi quelque chose qui va permettre de contribuer à mettre en place des îlots de fraîcheur.
And this solution can also contribute to decrease the temperature. The National Sanitation Office of Algeria was recently awarded because it put forward a proposal that was really easy to implement. So, Freddie, tell me, do you have any other examples of solutions that are nature-based solutions that are easy to implement in mainland France as well as any overseas?
Parmi l'ensemble des défis sociétaux qui sont cités comme terrain d'application des SFN et des SAFN, on a en particulier, je pense, les questions de lutte et d'adaptation vis-à-vis des risques naturels. Je prendrai volontiers l'exemple des risques naturels qui sont liés à l'eau, donc les problématiques de crues, d'inondations, domaine que je connais assez bien. Là aussi, il y a des solutions vertes. Donc, on va les retrouver sous le vocable notamment de génie végétal. Une fois, des actions qui vont permettre de végétaliser des milieux et qui vont permettre à la fois, par exemple, de consolider des berges de cours d'eau, tout en présentant un gain pour la biodiversité, pour la nature. Par exemple, mettre en place une trame verte le long des cours d'eau. Donc là, on rentre bien avec cette approche co-bénéfice sur la définition même des solutions fondées sur la nature. Et puis, puisqu'on parle d'adaptation là-dedans, l'adaptation, il va falloir qu'on adapte le savoir-faire, parce qu'on a un savoir-faire qui existe aujourd'hui. Mais si le climat change, ça veut dire que l'aire de répartition des espèces végétales va changer aussi. Donc il va falloir adapter le choix des espèces. Il va falloir aussi adapter le dimensionnement des ouvrages. Si les événements sont plus importants, à ce moment-là, il faut que les ouvrages soient plus résistants. Et puis, puisque vous citez l'outre-mer, moi je citerai volontiers également des actions de restauration des mines. Alors, je pense aux mines de nickel en Nouvelle-Calédonie, je pense aux mines d'or en Guyane, ces mines qui ne sont plus exploitées pour la plupart aujourd'hui. Là aussi, on a des solutions fondées sur la nature qui permettent de restaurer une biodiversité tout en luttant contre, par exemple, l'érosion des sols qui peut être génératrice de sédiments qui peuvent aller, comme c'est le cas en Nouvelle-Calédonie, par exemple, aller abîmer le corail.
Soil erosion that could harm coral as it happened in New Caledonia. Thank you very much, Freddie. We couldn't reach Abdelhaim Ouramoun, but if you go on our website, on the Artisan Trophy website, you can read more about Abdelhaim Ouramoun and about the project he has undertaken based on ecosystem. It's really interesting. And now I turn towards our guest. She will give you all the information you need to apply for this trophy, or you can also, if you don't want to apply to get an award, you can engage with all the actors of your network, so you can encourage them to apply for this trophy. So first of all, Aurélie, who can send an application? Who are the people who can take part in our initiative? Well, anyone, any entity who has a nature-based solutions can apply. So this means collectivities, national agencies, public universities, NGOs, and businesses. You're really welcome to apply. Feel free to apply whenever you want. And here is the address of the website. So Aurélie, what are the main deadlines of the competition? So we are going to launch this trophy right now. From now on, you can go on the internet and upload the form, the application form, and you can send your project application until the 10th of November. The jury will examine the different applications in November and December, and we will hand out the trophies on January the 18th. If you need more information, if you want to check all the information you need to apply to the trophies, you can go on the website. Here is the address. You can also find this information on Twitter. And now, Yves Le Trionnaire, the director of the Environment Agency for the South region. He is the regional director, and here is the regional director of the OFB here, so everybody's here, and I'll hand over the floor to you to conclude this session. I am delighted to declare this competition open, and I'll hand over the floor to my colleague. Feel free to send your application. I hope you will be, there will be many applications, whether you work for a national agency or a university. Feel free to apply, and feel free to encourage others to apply, to inspire, to hand over, to promote projects that will inspire others to act. And adapting and facing climate change is a challenge. So we have decided to adapt to climate change because it is possible through cross-cutting approaches and solutions that will be at the crossroads of biodiversity and environment. We know we can continue because you've been very committed, and I am really sure we need to keep on mobilizing and federating others to act. Thank you, everyone, for taking part in this session. Thank you, participants, for being here. I would like to thank the OFB for organizing this session. See you all very soon.
So this is what we started to do. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am mission coordinator for section. We work with the university and high schools, sometimes middle schools, to put all these people into relationships with one another, to gather them together. And so we initiate projects, and here we initiated a national project. And this is an idea that we had. If you followed the background of the World Nature Congress, if you're here, this means something to you. So what happens here? Why are we here? Why did we come here? This is open to the general public, but it's the first time it's been open to the general public. Up until today, nobody really knew that this conference or congress was organized every 4 years. And so a lot of us didn't know. When I started asking about this, people didn't know the IPCC, yes, but you know, the IUCN, no, and we've been doing this since 1948. So what are these congress goers coming to do here? You can take notes, you know. So what do they do at their conference or at their congress? Well, it depends. It's quite varied. Depends on the delegate. So where do you come from? Normandy or where? Yes, I do. But it's really to vote for the program of the IUCN and to, you know, well, here's someone who's looked into this beforehand. But of course, yes, but that's really not what's taken away. The conference goers, they come because actually they voted remotely, and they've decided what the motions, they've come to decide what the motions that will be defended next year at the COP15. And so you see the reasoning behind this. And so we said, okay, they will be drafting motions to vote on, and then you think, well, what's it consist of? What have you ever seen an IUCN motion before? No? Okay, well, I can't hear anything with your masks on. Yes, we saw some titles, but we're looking. Well, yes, they're all available, you know. They are available, and I did see that they were open to the general public, and we picked some up just to give examples. When I actually suggested having this meeting, we based ourselves on the preceding Congress. So we said that this work will be actually led by the members of the IUCN. It's not necessarily scientific. It's very broad, actually, the IUCN. And so we said, well, why not propose all of these exercises to our youths? So what would be the interest of drafting motions by the young people? Actually, it's like a report. I'm not going to show you my slides. I'm just... Okay, so how do you build a motion? Okay, you've got a report or some knowledge facts that you base it on it, and then you have proposals, but operational proposals, not just a general proposal. No, these are proposals that are very precise, and we really should be able to look at some precision and really incite the decision makers to act upon it. And so we had the students work on it, and it wasn't very easy because here you're at the Congress. Well, maybe you knew. Of course, okay, on this side we've got the really young people. You're a little more mature here, but of course, you know. So can you imagine when I start, you're having a hard time answering my questions. So when I was in high schools, what was that like? Or when I was in the middle schools? Well, so first of all, the word motion. People don't really know what that means. It's quite a technical term, actually. And so, first of all, I had to explain what it meant. So, now, just we detail here, just for fun, because of the timing, you know, we had to kind of prepare this white paper for the month of June of 2020. Yes, so when we had to gather all of the motions, you probably heard the president at the time announcing that everything was shut down, and so we had a few problems there. But this white paper is an action that was led by the OFB, the French Biodiversity Office, and the Ecological agency of the ministry. And so we all agreed to work on this approach, but you really had to do a lot of explaining in this and encourage the public along the way. So why? Now, why is it's a bit different than the COP15 motions or the other IUCN ones, because the idea was to enable the young people to tell us what they think about this topic in the first place. So first of all, to propose things that could be heard, and then to actually conceptualize the proposal. And that takes a bit of effort as well. So 3 issues: making the educative community aware, and look at the operational aspects of it, and acknowledging the will of these young people to defend biodiversity. And so what I said before was these facts must be built scientifically, and reports. The arguments must be worked on in depth and have serious grounds as well. And so you really have to look at the people who worked on it. And also another element, which isn't very easy, do you have an idea who you should ask about some birds that live in the school recreational area or near your building? So so students or society in general, when they try to implement something, they have to know what scale they're working on so that the decision makers can actually carry out the action demanded. And so that's why I put the proposals for the motions, just like the IUCN motions, it's on different levels. For example, the state, you can ask and then the international community, the municipalities, and various other institutions. And then we actually proposed a guide. You can't read what's on the screen, but there are a lot of resources and links. There is a high school, that worked on this. And then we put a form online. But I'll come back to that. I just wanted to show you something. There's one dimension that was very interesting, very relevant, actually, regarding training. It's really relevant, but it can be a hindrance as well, because, if you don't have this formal aspect, it's difficult to get into it. But also, we had to have something simplified in this presentation, because on the right, you can't read it, but you can see what it looks like. That's the IUCN proposal. And on the left, you see a group of students that did it. I think they're in grade 12, so last year of high school, and they wanted to base theirs on the IUCN motions. And of course, we had this form that they could enter all the information online, and it had to be laid down actually before they could start filling out the form. And so it was really designed, to fall into the legal context, because, it has to be legal, of course. And so what's really relevant here is the operational part below. I don't know if there are any teachers here. These are teaching methods actually no teachers in the room, but I wanted to explain the purpose of this form leading up to the motion, to the drafting of the motion. And so what I said was the operational section, they are the ones that do the presenting, and you have to define the entity that's in charge of the measure. So here are the first initial results. Why do I say the initial results? Because the situation was such this year that we will be continuing this work, and will continue through to 2021 and 22, and so that we can maybe offer something different. So as you see the high schools did respond in majority, and I think the reason was the difficulty, the way that it was drafted, the arguments used, and of course you do that kind of thing more often in high school more than in the middle school or higher elementary school. And of course, you see the gap that there is between the two age groups. And so here is a sample of the topics that it turned around, actually. So the majority was around the ocean. And of course, I'm just half surprised here, because this is a topic that comes very quickly to the minds of the young, is, ocean. But look at how diverse it is, a very varied set of questions, economy, environment. Of course, there are some kids that ask the problem of how can we have economic development while we're really safeguarding nature as well. So that actually came to their minds. And there are other things that bring us back to how the requirement of making the youths aware and creating awareness amongst them as far as environmental protection is concerned. And then there was a motion regarding housing as well. So a few motions here. The first one actually deals with those who travel by plane. I didn't put everything on the screen, of course, because, you know, it's a long, the IUCN motions, but those that were drafted by the students were even longer. So, you know, we have, usually what we do is we make a summary and then everything's in it, but now I've just picked some points here and there. So first of all, you have the facts that are established, and some have offered to set up digital mapping for transportation. And so I'm just showing you this. There are a lot of constraints here. For example, you have to comply with a quota for employee travel, for example. So for so many employees, you can have so much spent on travel. These are kids saying this. So they really have gone in depth on this. The second one that we noted was the one that was in regards to building housing, low-cost housing units. And so we wanted to highlight, or they wanted to highlight, you know, with respect to those that have, you know, energy not that available and broadly available. So they wanted to make sure there was no excess cost and that it wasn't due to the poor building and energy requirements of the construction involved. So here we had some middle school kids that were concerned about climate change. And that's really interesting because, you know, climate change is in the school curriculum, but it's at the end in the last year of high school. And so they actually take it in school. But the kids are like 13, 14 years old. I don't know if you remember when you were in those grades. So I didn't really put everything on the screen because I didn't have that much space, but you know, they took figures that they used regarding deforestation. And for the international community, you know, they weren't even afraid of that. So, and then for forestry practices, and this is what we wanted. We wanted proposals that were really able to be carried out, concrete things to do. And so, you know, and what they were saying is that if you cut down a tree, you have to plant another one. And these are, you know, young kids. And this is from the Carignan school. I'm saying it loud, so for these students and pupils in Carignan middle school, or high school. And so now, for the high schools, you know, of course there are some in secondary school systems that are concerned, you know, with topics that our own politicians are concerned with. And so here they thought about and raised the question of being able to maintain, well, they found it paradoxical to have economic development on one hand and environmental friendly practices on the other, and environmental protection. So then you have risks. If someone here can give me some elements regarding risk, how can we establish with figures to support it, the impact of economic activity? Of course, we can quote some, we can imagine some, and but where am I going to find these elements to back what we are laying down here? but you know, I mean, these are high school students, so that was good. So now we're going to change the economic models. So in order to structure new systems, you have to look at your economic development and really have to involve civil society in the choices made. So actually, really, there is hope here, and then you're saying, go, let's go, young people, on with it. So they talked about the world, the French World Global Environment Facility, the FFEM as well. So I really want to highlight this topic because, you know, I was a teacher in another life, but we actually wanted to place on a major scale some fun activities for young people, and so that we can find the means to enable more young people to be aware of these questions.
So I have a question for you. When did you start to care about environment and biodiversity? Or maybe you don't remember because it was so long ago. Was it in middle school for you? You too? So you were really ahead of your times, right? If you have ideas, and that's what's really interesting here. So the point here is to mobilize others, to inspire others when you have your own convictions. And I think it's not easy. And when I think about our representatives, I do think that sometimes they feel really lonely with all their ideas. So I think that must be the last slide. So let's go to the overseas in Guyana. And here is the proposal that was put forward to the mayor. So the students wrote a letter addressed to the mayor, and it is about protecting birds with one issue. There are many cats who eat them. So first of all, we need to identify felines on the spots. You need to identify, to know how many cats are there. So that's all for this emotion about birds. There's one school in Nice who has tackled the question of common birds, but you can find in your own garden. And what they say is that we don't really care about this ordinary biodiversity. We'd rather tackle extraordinary issues like panda. This is more exotic, but then this motion explains that the most important biodiversity is this ordinary biodiversity. So we need to care about this biodiversity. It is a really common biodiversity, is an important indicator of what the state of biodiversity is in general. I don't have much time left, so now there will be something new in 2022, because we will ask our youth to make the selection, select 10 major motions, and they will be promoted during the French presidency of the Council of the European Union next year. Thank you for your attention. That's all. Are there any questions? I apologize. I was late. I didn't hear how many schools sent a proposal. So 65 classes or 100 classes sent their applications. The truth is that any kind of group could send a proposal So one individual could send his or her own proposal, or there could be a whole group of students sending a common collective proposal. And this is really interesting because, you know, if you're in your class with your fellow students and you want to send a common application, then you will have to vote because not everybody agrees on the motion to send. And our aim would be to extend this project to as many schools as possible and to make it possible that the same schools who applied actually take part in the selection of the motions. Can we access the results of the process? Of course you can. Who are you? I work for the ministry and I am in charge of the national biodiversity strategy. We have consulted local stakeholders, but we haven't turned towards our youth yet. We haven't had the time to do so. And so I was really interested in everything you've done, and I find it is a really interesting project. I find it quite extraordinary to see how much awareness there is when you read these motions. You see that students show a certain level of maturity when they question our economic models. So I would like to include your documents, if you have any materials to send to me, I would be glad to integrate in our work. Or I work for the Ministry of Education. Of course, I can send you documents. You might know one of my colleagues. We all work together, and we can work even closer collaboration between our ministries. And it's nobody's fault, really. We have a lot of work and we're really busy. Are there any other questions? Do you want to draft a motion? And I want everybody to raise their hands and say, yes, we want to. But you just must be aware that only 10 motions will be selected. During the opening speech, many announcements were made about raising awareness about nature among the youngsters. Do you want to contribute to it? There are multiple initiatives everywhere. This awareness is shared. It isn't limited to a specific ministry, so it is good that I can actually talk with my colleague here. It is necessary to create convergences, interfaces, and talk with each other. Individual initiatives are important, so we cannot ignore them. We have to include them, and this project gives also a voice to individual initiatives. But if there are only individual initiatives, then there will be a huge number of initiatives. So we also need to work together and include our youth. This activity is an educational activity in many students. I've worked on the motion you just saw, and they've learned a lot in doing so. So my aim here is to equip them, to give them the tools that would make it possible for them to turn to institutions. It is really hard to do so when you don't have the needed vocabulary. It is really difficult to do it, whereas with this project they will gain tools that will help them pursue their goals. We need to work all together, create synergies. We can't make it on our own. How can we apply this white paper to university students? That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it for the moment, but I think it would be definitely interesting. You are asking because you are already at university. So do you think it would be useful to involve university students? There are many student associations who want to show their commitment, to express their opinion, to have the means to call upon decision makers. So that's the reason why I think they could be involved. I cannot talk about it because nothing has been formalized, but there will be an event at the end of the year to talk to university students and know their point of view about the future professions connected to biodiversity. Because you are at the university, you need to think about what your profession will be. There are professions who will have a crucial role in the future. So that's what we work on in our national strategy. We are working on it, and I know there are many young people who want to work in the field of environment, but who don't know which job they should aim at precisely. That's the reason why we're working on an event, a project. There won't be anything national, there will be nothing international, and we will make a test. It will be a pilot project with youngsters, and we're really excited about it. I found what you said really interesting. I had the same reasoning. It is good to give students the necessary tools to formalize, to express their point of view. They must have the necessary tool to express their evolving reasoning. And where do you study? What do you do? I currently study at the ENS, the Superior National School. This is my 4th year. This is really interesting. I will give you my contact. We can work together. Is there anybody working or studying agriculture, agroecology? Because the environment is their cup of tea, right? You are the ones who will carry on with the new business models, and now the concept of risk is ever more present in the mind of investors. They know they have to change the way they work. So we are going to work on a financial greenwashing. There's a growing number of consultations to help businesses make the right decision, and that's where you can actually drive change. We need this change because we need to change the value chains in businesses, and you can help us make it. And we have initiated a system with the OFB. It is called Committed to Nature, and for the first time businesses have given us feedback. For the first time we raised the right questions, and we feel the need to assess our actions. So that's the new initiative we launched 1 year ago, and we're working with local stakeholders to anchor the projects locally. And if we have also made some publications to help businesses, especially SMEs. %50 of businesses are SMEs.
I'm ready. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the French Pavilion for this last event for West Med, whose initiative is the cooperation of helping the Mediterranean to deal with climate change. I do not want to linger, and so I will ask the ministry to talk. Dear friends, welcome to the French Pavilion for this World Nature Congress in Marseille for, I hope, a wonderful session of Mediterranean cooperation amongst the two shores of the Mediterranean regarding the environment and biodiversity. West Med is not an organization in the traditional sense, but an initiative which unites 10 countries, the west of the Mediterranean, even beyond. We have a broader conception of the Mediterranean here, and we support them, through the European Union in this initiative. It is needless to emphasize the international context from the Mediterranean per se, and par excellence is so international, and we're more and more concerned about the state of the Mediterranean. We're talking about the IPCC reports that we hear of almost every day now. We are talking about transversal issues and transborder issues. To handle a border or a national coastline makes no sense if the action is not coordinated with the other states of the Mediterranean basin. And this is where the strength of West Med comes from, is that it insists that all of the states of the Western Mediterranean cooperate and agree on Mediterranean development and biodiversity and climatic and ecologic transition. And this is what we're trying to do as of the launching of the West Med program or initiative, working closely with Western Mediterranean. France was very greatly invested in this because it is co-chaired by one of the states of the southern states of the Mediterranean and one of the north. And so France was the first co-chair with Algeria and then with Morocco. And I, on behalf of France, handed over the co-chairmanship to Italy and who actually co-chairs with Libya. West Med is very concrete set of actions that are borne by the states and often funded by European means. And what's important is that the action is always able to be assessed. We are concerned with being able to check where we're at and what our credit and funds are used for. It can also be a launching of joint initiatives, and I remember the motion of the French-Moroccan co-chairmanship where they launched in the Western Mediterranean, at least, where they were working, and I listened very attentively to the Marseille mayor at the time when we opened the IUCN meetings, is how this was important. And so West Med was already had prepared and really had a work group set up already and had prepared draft deliberations. So with this cooperation, one of the states of the West Med, we have set down an operational tool, which is called West Mokopol, which is a cooperative tool between the Western Mediterranean states for prevention and struggle against oil spills and pollution at sea. But usually it's the Mediterranean basin is traditionally a place of cooperation amongst the states. But West Med has enabled us to broaden our perimeters, and today we have a tool that actually is coming to the end of its mission with exchanging good practices and cooperation efforts to struggle against accidental pollution in the Western Mediterranean. And now I will ask the Ambassador Bozio with the Libyan co-chair to look at the current events of WestMed before we go on to the projects of the 10 countries of this Western Mediterranean that we are focusing on here at Marseille at this IUCN Congress. Yes, thank you, Secretary General, sir. And on behalf of Mr. Bozio, I think Mr. Chabiou is online from Libya, and he should be behind you, actually, on the screen. But yes, I will leave the floor to you. Thank you very much. And we would like to warmly greet Mr. Changroun as soon as he appears on the screen. But I would like to thank Mr. Denis Robin and Ambassador Pavilion once he'll be connected, and all of those who are here and those on the internet. And Mr. Robin introduced me just to say that I deal with maritime affairs within the Foreign Ministry of Italy, and now I am co-chair of the WestMed entity, and we shared with Morocco, as France had done in 2020. And now we're sharing with Libya, the chair, and we will pass the chair in December to Malta, who will be continuing on with Libya for the rest of the year. The WestMed initiative has been, as described by Monsieur Robin, is a strategy for the maritime basin and a maritime strategy for the European community. It is an innovative instrument for the peoples of the Mediterranean and the basin to support the Mediterranean and its milieu. But it's a beautiful phrase, but I did take it from the Naples Convention in 2017. And it contains the concept or the philosophy of the initiative. It means the initiative, firstly, is an intergovernmental structure and involves a network of local authorities, research centers, NGOs, businesses, that Monsieur Robin had already mentioned, and they all work jointly within civil society, and they all have a common objective. It comes out of, arises from the basis of the Council, European Council, and there was a broad range of actions that were possible for the common objectives for sustainable development within the basin. And so what does this mean? It means that the initiative is based structurally on a strong institutional network of policies and throughout the Mediterranean. And it's in close cooperation with the European Union and the Union for the Mediterranean as well. So that's what the structure is about. And it also benefits from support of assistance mechanisms funded by the European Commission that give it the possibility, and indeed it's the key to the good operations of the initiative, is to directly activate the elements of civil society with the technical support. Within its support mechanism. So I will not go into detail on the objectives of the initiative, but I wanted to stress the structure itself, which is very light, actually. The political aspect only enters into play when required. You know, we do not produce ministerial declarations or statements. No, they have given their agreement and political will. And so the representatives of the 10 countries are gathered in a council, and their mandate is to give the impetus for joint and concrete projects and projects that can be assessed concretely as well. There is a technical group that has been set up, at least 2, and we are creating a third. The technical group have the objective of pooling the technicians of the various countries and studying the fundamental elements of the projects that they want to develop.
And there will be a technical group on green transport. There will be another one for agriculture. It was created last April. We also consulted the Alliance of Maritime Clusters in the West or in the East Mediterranean. The green transport sector is really important, and this group aims to have higher benefits, to have a higher impact on value chains, and to adapt regional vessels and ships. And we must also ensure that they have a renewable use of fuels. And we want also to transform ports and circular hubs for the circulation of renewable energy. Finally, there is the use of LNG as a transition towards the decarbonation of the sector. We also plan to use decarbonated fuels. Different initiatives were promoted. We made a feasibility study to find out how we can drive shipping and optimizing investment made in renewable energies. And there are 2 pilot actions for the creation of a West-Med port network as an energy community. And there is also another action. And one project was finalized. It is called Life for Med ECA. And I think that Mr. Robin gave us some information already. It aims to support an emission control area in the Mediterranean, and the project aims to form a large group of stakeholders and to engage them in targeted consultations. We want to gain new relevant knowledge about the sector, facilitate the best practices sharing and dialogue between different sectors involved. And finally, we aim to assess the impact of the different measures undertaken so that we can get funding from the EU. The next step of the our cooperation was aquaculture, and we created a technical group last April that aims to facilitate and to promote innovation to develop a sustainable aquaculture, sustainable and a profitable aquaculture. And this group met twice, and they aim to create common project that will create jobs and that will be a source of income for the local population, especially on the southern shore of the Mediterranean. This last aspect is really important, as aquaculture and fishing generate lots of jobs, and they can also facilitate the creation of capacities, jobs and income in these countries. There is another important action area with the deployment of cooperation. And this brings together major stakeholders, that is big companies, smaller companies, and develop their capacity to create synergies with all the sectors involved, even if they operate on land that is beyond, like we go beyond the shipping industry. In order to do this, we created the WestMed Alliance, and we have an action plan. And this alliance should give birth to a platform that will accelerate exchanges and cooperation. We will extend our trade relations with regional clusters, including non-maritime clusters, as I just mentioned, because these non-maritime clusters are still relevant to the blue economy, and we will ensure capacity building. And on this point, the initiative has strengthened its synergies with other Mediterranean initiatives. There are other maritime regional strategies. And if we can maximize our impact on investment and enhance our regional cooperation. There's a cooperation, very major cooperation, that has been developed these past years. It is a cooperation with this intergovernmental oceanographical. It is called the OIC. It is part of the UNESCO organization, and we had the backing, the financial support of the European Commission, and together we've developed a management plan for maritime space, and along with WestMed we selected candidates, and we want to ensure a better follow-up, and I hope it will be during the next presidencies a space where West Mediterranean countries can talk and optimize their use of the maritime space. I will be brief now, but it is true that during these past years Italy held the presidency of the initiative. It was a tough time with the pandemic. Everything was closed, but we kept on talking. We continued our dialogue, and even if it was streamlined, and our initiative has always guaranteed the added value that was promised at first, and it stayed a cooperation instrument in the Mediterranean, that is an area that is an homogeneous political entity that is both homogeneous and complementary. the Mediterranean area has shown it has the potential to shift towards a solidarity, sustainable model. And there is a clear connection between the northern and southern shore of the Mediterranean. This sea doesn't share, doesn't divide, it unites us. So this initiative is not known yet, it's widely known, but it could become, and it is already, a tool towards achieving solidarity and towards harmonizing civil societies on both shores of the Mediterranean. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we thought that our guest from Libya would take the floor, but we couldn't connect. There were connectivity issues, so you really talked about all the countries of the initiative. You already mentioned the next presidency, and you stated that Libya wants to commit to aquaculture. We can't talk about deadlines, but the will is here. And now we will hear about the Ambassador Poivre d'Arvor, and he will give us some examples of dialogue between the different member countries. So for the moment, you can maybe go over on the other side and take a chair so you can see our ambassador, the ambassador of the maritime space, our ambassador for maritime challenges, and he will now take the floor. Mr. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Bonsoir à vous. D'abord, j'ai envie, sur un plan climatique, d'être à Marseille.
Good evening, everyone.
En Laponie, en effet, où je m'occupe aussi, en plus des questions maritimes et des questions polaires.
And here where I am, I do work with maritime questions. Obviously, where I am, it's not, the temperature is not that high.
Volonté, le projet Westmed, toutes ces problématiques se retrouvent aussi en Arctique et dans le fond dans beaucoup de mers et d'océans du monde. Si ce n'est qu'évidemment, en Méditerranée, Macron qui était vendredi matin, tout à fait assez exceptionnel pour un président français pendant 3 heures et demie au large des calanques de Marseille, donc en bateau, notamment sur le bateau du 7e continent, de l'expédition 7e continent qui s'occupe de la lutte contre le plastique, a pu mesurer, il le savait déjà, mais je crois qu'il a pu mesurer des visu et par des témoignages qui ont été faits, notamment par les responsables du parc national des Calanques, l'urgence. Et cette urgence, évidemment, ça ne sert à rien de dire, de répéter, mais il faut quand même le faire, ne serait-ce que pour que les politiques actent des mesures fortes. Je pense que l'initiative Westmed fait partie de ces initiatives au départ politique du 5+1 qui sont tout à fait indispensables, et je voudrais témoigner de sa manière aussi parce que pendant 4 années comme ambassadeur de France en Tunisie, j'ai pu mesurer les difficultés pour un pays comme la Tunisie avec une côte magnifique de 1400 km de longueur à affronter ces problèmes d'attaque permanente de la biodiversité, à faire prendre conscience à l'ensemble des citoyens, des collectivités, du littoral, des enjeux qui sont ceux évidemment des migrations au niveau de la mer. Dans le fond, si ça se passe mal chez moi, là où je suis actuellement, dans le Grand Nord, en Arctique, ça se passera très très mal aussi en Méditerranée. Et les questions océaniques sont évidemment très reliées aux questions polaires. La fonte de la glace au Groenland amènera, si elle n'est pas maîtrisée, mais elle ne le sera pas, amènera d'ici la fin de ces 100 ans, en 2100, amènera
à une montée des eaux considérable. Selon les uns et les autres, c'est 1 mètre, et ça peut être beaucoup plus. Et déjà, les dégâts d'érosion côtière qu'on connaît en Méditerranée se feront sentir. Ils se feront d'autant plus sentir sur la côte sud, et je ne veux pas me faire porte-parole. Je ne suis pas ambassadeur français, mais vraiment pour avoir vécu plus près de cette réalité de la rive sud de la Méditerranée, cette rive sud va vraiment souffrir, et elle n'est pas nécessairement prête à mettre en place des barrières qui lui permettraient des difficultés. Alors, pas besoin de rappeler les enjeux, mais il faut quand même le dire. Ces 500 millions de vivent dans cet espace, cette mer qui est à la fois tout petite, 40 km², mais qui est en fait la plus grande mer semi-fermée, contient en fait l'ensemble des problèmes que nous rencontrons, et que je pense que nous traiterons dans ce première initiative du président de la République, quand il était à Marseille il y a quelques jours, on dit de lancer un grand rendez-vous très libre qui va s'appeler l'Ocean Summit, un peu la formule qui a été adoptée pour Summit il y a maintenant quelques mois à Paris. L'Ocean Summit devra proposer sur des questions extrêmement précises, avec l'aide de tous ceux et de toutes celles qui, notamment en Méditerranée, mais sur l'ensemble des façades maritimes, se battent pour évidemment protéger ces espaces. Une des premières mesures que le président a annoncées d'ailleurs, c'est celle qui consiste à apporter les aires qui bénéficient en Méditerranée de protection forte, qui sont aujourd'hui finalement protégées à 0,2%, ce qui est quand même très peu. Je parle des eaux maritimes françaises, de les porter à 5% en d'ici 2027 pour atteindre un objectif de 10% en 2030. Évidemment, ces aires marines naturelles sont extrêmement importantes. On a mesuré, dès lors qu'on les met sous situation de protection forte, que la biomasse double, que les écosystèmes revivent très rapidement, et que les herbiers de Posidonie, que nous avons pu examiner de très près avec des plongeurs, avec Laurent Balesta, qui est un photographe et plongeur aussi émérite, et puis toutes sortes de spécialistes des questions des écosystèmes. Je pense à nos amis de l'Institut océanographique de Monaco. Ces écosystèmes sont menacés, très menacés. La Posidonie est en voie de disparition. Et là, évidemment, il y a des enjeux majeurs. La Méditerranée, elle va devoir affronter tous les sujets à la fois de tourisme de masse. On est à, je crois, 250 millions de touristes dans cette petite Méditerranée, mais on parle de 600 millions en 2025, ce qui évidemment fait peur, parce qu'on voit les effets en termes de dégradation du littoral, les effets de changement climatique qui vont amener forcément ce réchauffement de l'acidification des eaux, et puis ce trafic mondial qui fait que dans cette petite mer semi-fermée, 25%, un quart du commerce mondial passe avec les effets que l'on connaît à la fois sur la pollution, mais aussi sur évidemment la disparition, la mort des cétacés qui sont extrêmement menacés. Et puis évidemment toutes les questions d'économie maritime. Sur l'économie bleue, on a beau dire qu'elle doit être durable, il n'empêche que les exploitations d'hydrocarbures offshore, que le chalutage, la surpêche sont autant d'éléments qui évidemment s'ajoutant à la pollution plastique, je rappelle, vient principalement de la terre, 20% de la mer elle-même, mais beaucoup des embouchures de fleuves, des estuaires. La Méditerranée concentre l'ensemble de ces problématiques évidemment graves. Et en même temps, elle nous offre un herbier magnifique, un paysage de faune et de flore exceptionnel, 10 000 espèces. Et on sait qu'il y a encore aujourd'hui seulement 10% des espèces qui sont connues. Avec 1% de la surface globale des eaux, la Méditerranée. Donc je pense que notre engagement, nous, Français,
I think that our commitment as French, the French, was shown in proposals such as this, and it shows that France has and bears a certain responsibility and empowerment. It's not just that, we have large maritime surface area, but it means that we need to be exemplary, and even with respect to others, and because throughout our territory, even overseas, we have a collective responsibility. And I feel that the idea of President Macron to launch a major forum as our ocean, a common ocean, really shows where our responsibility lies. And we have to be very careful about complying with the laws of the sea, the national navy as well, and a huge economic power, the IFREMER Science Institution and others. These all embody, as of 2015, they have all taken made a commitment collectively, jointly on the Paris Agreement, very high level of achievement, and we're very far from decarbonizing, and we do defend decarbonizing measures. We, through what we call, blue diplomacy, this is part of my mission, and with all of those involved in France and that are in charge of this, and I thank our General Secretary of the Sea, for example, and all of these topics are embodied by the recreation of the Ministry of the Sea by Mr. Girardin. And they all participate in the discussion and dialogue with other oceans like the Pacific, Australia, India as well, but also in the Mediterranean with Spain, Italy, a certain number of countries, even Tunisia, for example. The Bizerte World Forum that was created 4 years ago and chaired by Pascal Lamy, who is from the General Director of the World Trade Organization. And we are, even if we are in the south in France, but we are in the north of the Mediterranean because we're in Marseille. So it's important for countries such as Tunisia, Morocco, Algeria, but also, despite some complex situations, Mauritania, Mali, etc., that they also produce their own thought process. Their citizens don't think in the same way. Their rapport with the environment is not necessarily the same. So this Bizerte forum on the 24th and 25th of September, which will be inaugurated by Prince Albert II and the European Commissioner, and to the environment and fisheries and others, of course. So this Bizerte Forum will address various topics regarding the sea, but also this plan as well that that is being established. I don't know what the PAMEX link is for an exemplary sea in 2030 and the West Med initiative. Of course, it's the same topic of one, biodiversity is threatened, is under threat, and there's plastic pollution, of course. These are topics that are taken extremely seriously today. Maybe not 5 years ago, but there have been a lot of initiatives undertaken since. And it's important for reducing plastic in rivers and the sea. Also, maritime transport and coalitions that are being organized, the CES coalition in Europe, to bring maritime carriers to do their hauling in an environmental friendly manner. And fisheries as well. The PAMEX that I spoke of a moment ago, our ambassador to the Mediterranean is involved in this. But we also wanted to launch, and it's just the beginning of this initiative that was wished for or desired by some Mediterranean elected representatives, and that is to set down around the table all of those that that exist along the coastlines. And so I see a lot of programs that are born by NGOs, different Mediterranean organizations, but I'm thinking of regional government leaders, and of the 24 countries around the Mediterranean, but also around all of those coasts, to meet and share the aspects of their site. For example, the mayor of Barcelona, the mayor of Marseille, or Alexandria, and Bizerte, they all have things to say that they don't say because there is no structure which would enable them to voice their opinions there. I would like to pay tribute to all of the work that has been done by the UPM, the 5+5 group, the Derive and Blue Economy, and the creation of a Mediterranean platform, the stakeholders of Blue Economy, and through the launching of the initiative of Blue Economy, the West Med and the Algerian Declaration in December of 2018, and you can imagine there are numerous, and all of the programs that are financed by various financial instruments, and the neighboring European countries association, and there's also the mechanism for European interconnection and others. But today we really have to set down a very strict agenda, and quick. It has to be very quick. We must go much quicker and move along fast. And so I think that this initiative, the West Med initiative, has 10 countries talking together already, and this is extremely important. So I hope to see you at this One Ocean Summit just launched by President Macron, and we have the summit of the two shores in Marseille soon, maybe something along the Atlantic facade as well in France. But a lot of this is our heritage, it's our culture, and we do a lot of dialogue with the Maghrebian countries. And of course, climate change is also linked to migratory issues, terrorism as well on that zone. And so these are very strategic, very political topics for the President and all of the members of his government, the Ministry of Ecological Transition, the Ministry of the Sea, etc. And so they will be involved financially, but also politically in terms of policy as well. And I would like to pay tribute to the Italian and Libyan co-chairs, and I think very soon in Malta they will be on board the chair vessel. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, Ambassador, sir, for these few words, and of course all of these actions that act as an echo chamber for the West Med initiative. And now we will go on to the witness accounts, and we will be online. It is Alexandra Sensi, who is from the Union for the Mediterranean, General Secretariat, and she will appear on the screen remotely. Yes.
Good afternoon to everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today. It's a great honor as well to participate to this session on West Med, though, through online connection. In fact, I will, in a certain way, try to frame the region of the work, but also, the latest, share the latest developments, which of course are of interest and are also, let's say, a sort of contribution also to West Med countries to the overall region, namely the adoption in February the 2nd of this year of the second UFM Ministerial Declaration on Sustainable Blue Economy. Differently, let's say, from the previous declaration, which was already, let's say, setting a very positive note, the second ministerial declaration has enormously expanded, let's say, the scope of collaboration among the whole basin and, let's say, in a certain way, managed to set the path towards collaboration, concrete collaboration, on around, let's say, 10 priorities topics, going, let's say, from skills, employment, fishery, aquaculture, transport, marine litter, tourism, marine renewable energy, security, safety, and much more. As on the occasion, actually, of the Ministerial, that was, again, very well attended, participated by a very important group of stakeholders, despite, let's say, the difficulties of the COVID crisis. We have produced actually an interesting video, which I ask actually to be played because in very few minutes summarize again where we come from and where we go to. Also, let's say, giving credit to West Med for its important contribution. So I'll leave a few minutes for the video and then I'll be back.
You can launch the video, it's on the next slide.
Our generation can achieve a sustainable use of our ocean resources, promoting economic growth, innovation, improved livelihoods and blue jobs, while at the same time preserving the health of our seas. An increasing number of countries around the world are moving towards a coordinated approach and cross-border collaboration on marine and maritime structured policies and joint actions on blue economy. It is essential to address the growing environmental and climate-related challenges that the Mediterranean region is currently facing, while tackling the unprecedented socio-economic crisis that the COVID-19 pandemic has generated. The deliverables of the 2015 UFM Ministerial Declaration on the Blue Economy have been achieved. The Blue Economy Facility has successfully executed regional and national workshops and activities in the 8 NE South countries. The UFM Blue Economy Working Group is effectively enhancing cooperation and information exchange amongst the countries. The WestMed initiative is well into its implementation phase, identifying relevant projects in key areas such as green shipping, aquaculture and tourism. Most of the Mediterranean countries have joined the Blue Med initiative, which addresses research and innovation through a multidisciplinary approach, including the Blue Med pilot focusing on plastic pollution. Interreg Med and CBC have turned into a series of strategic and governance projects on blue economy. The Mediterranean Blue Economy Stakeholder Platform, managed by the UFM Secretariat, is up and running. EU managing authority as well as key donors such as CEDA and GIZ are supporting the blue economy priorities. This second ministerial declaration on sustainable blue economy aims at renewing the political mandate of the 42 UFM countries towards a more ambitious series of shared goals with an expanded scope in terms of areas of cooperation, principles and common actions to address the joint challenges for the future of the Mediterranean Sea and its region. Reinforce governance and future of sea basin strategies and promote sustainable circular economy principles as well as tools such as maritime spatial planning and integrated coastal zone management. Promote marine research and innovation, skills, careers and employment to reduce the mismatch between the skills of the labor force and the evolving needs of the industry. Fisheries and aquaculture are of vital importance for food security and provide essential socio-economic value for vulnerable coastal communities. The sustainable, climate-neutral and zero-pollution maritime transport and ports plays a strategic role ensuring connectivity among the UFM countries but also in reducing global greenhouse gas emissions. Reduce marine litter, in particular plastic and microplastic pollution. Rethink coastal and maritime tourism, preserving the marine and coastal ecosystems, local communities and marine cultural heritage. Promote research and innovation on the marine renewable energies to combat climate change. Ensuring a high level of maritime safety and security for the protection of its citizens and countries. Boost sustainable investment in the blue economy to create a more conducive environment for investments in the UFM countries. The blue economy challenges oblige us to realize that the sustainable management of the resources provided by the Mediterranean Sea is common. Shared good will require a closer collaboration across borders and sectors and on a wider scale.
الاقتصاد الأزرق هو النموذج الاقتصادي الأمثل الذي يضمن استقرار اجتماعي واقتصادي لمنطقتنا ونظام بيئي صحي ومستدام. كمثال، نحن في صندوق العالمي للطبيعة نعمل مع البحارة من أجل التصرف المشترك في الموارد والذي يمكن أن يحمي النظام البيئي البحري ويدر مداخيل القارة للمجتمعات الساحلية.
As a BlueMed ambassador in Tunisia, my message for the future of blue economy in the southern Mediterranean basin is that blue growth governance mechanisms should be based on an ecosystem approach to maintain their long-term sustainability. It is crucial in order to ensure the continuity of political agenda, hence the importance of Mediterranean synergies, so that we can truly make a difference.
We have very positive expectations for blue economy in the Mediterranean, particularly around regenerative blue economy, as we are seeing amazing projects for restoring and enhancing marine environments based on science and technology and raising ecosystem goods and services which lead to really sustainable growth opportunities for all the Mediterranean basin.
Dans le cadre de l'économie bleue, espérons de trouver un support pour les jeunes promoteurs pour s'investir dans notre pays et pour créer en fait des nouveaux emplois.
It is time for us all to renew our political commitment and take action together.
You need to switch on the microphone for Alessandra.
Thank you very much for having shown the video, which show itself how much collaboration and, let's say, opportunities for collaboration have been developed over the time. Let me add actually a few words on the specific, let's say, daily work that is being run with the WestMed initiative. It was already mentioned by the co-chair, by Mr. Bosio, that there are specific, let's say, areas of collaboration that go from blue skills to green shipping, aquaculture, maritime clusters, tourism, and blue finance, and overall on the switch, let's say, towards green and circular economy through, let's say, specific access like sustainable consumption and production, or specific topics, urgent topics like maritime, like marine litter. I would like actually to add that the collaboration, it's indeed also related to ensuring that there is a continuous, let's say, flow of information and dissemination. So whatever activities it's organized in the region, the UFM community, but also the WestMed community, try to potentiate the news to ensure to reach even, let's say, the farthest, let's say, stakeholders, as well as there is a very strong, let's say, collaboration in terms of technical expertise. I'd like actually to bring to your attention some, let's say, activities that we have been running also with the WestMed group very recently. I mean, it was already mentioned the importance and the emphasis that we have also on capacity building. Of course, I mean, this could only actually be done very recently to webinars. We had very interesting ones on digitalization skills in the aquaculture and in the tourism sector. We had many interesting ones also connected through the laboratories that are indeed working, checking, monitoring, let's say, marine litter collected from the sea and collected, let's say, from the beaches. So they were really hands-on training, I would say, online. And we are actually organizing together with the WestMed support also shortcoming event on women in blue economy, which has been actually found a very important subject within the issue on employment and skills. So we hope actually also through this gathering, which of course we invite you all to be, also to highlight and give, let's say, the right credit to many activities that women are running in the blue economy and provide also, let's say, opportunities for the further development of the related employment opportunities. In relation to maritime clusters, among many other things, it was again already mentioned by Mr. Bossum. Let me connect actually to the upcoming event, the Sea Future in La Spezia. There will be a dedicated event actually on the WestMed network of maritime clusters. So we also had a publication on it a few years ago, which in a certain way is already outdated because maritime clusters have been developing actually quite fast, in particular on the European side, but also on the Western Med side. So they are definitely taken also, let's say, as example by the other, let's say, Mediterranean countries. It's also worth mentioning that at the very last working group on blue economy that we had in June the 10th, and it was actually the first working group after the adoption of the second ministerial on blue economy in February. The WestMed was very well, let's say, acknowledged for its progress also, let's say, in dialogue. Let's highlight actually all the discussion, understanding, common understanding that was also developed on green shipping and what was also mentioned, the potential, let's say, for retrofitting, the potential for the creation of the ports as energy community, which in a certain way has a benefit to the entire region and is actually at the backbone of the ongoing, let's say, proposal on boosting the adaptation of vessels, making, let's say, the Mediterranean in a certain way an emission-free region. With WestMed, as I mentioned, we work also very closely on the green and circular aspects. This is something, of course, that concerns the entire Euro-Mediterranean region. The UFM has a specific environment agenda, which is called the Greener Med Agenda, which is a part also the hopefully upcoming UFM Ministerial on Environment and Climate Change on the 4th of October in Cairo. We have indeed three transversal axes, one on green circular economy, one on pollution, and another one on ecosystem restoration, which are part of all, let's say, the work that we do on more specific issues like marine litter. Marine litter, for example, is not just an environmental problem, but it's also an economic problem. And this is, let's say, within this frame that we also, let's say, have been trying to link it to all the work done on sustainable consumption and production, trying, let's say, to tackle, let's say, behavioral and lifestyle issues. and let's say addressing potential, let's say, mitigation measures, also, let's say, through specific project, which, as it was also mentioned, the Commission has been able, let's say, to support for the entire region. It's also important to mention that within, let's say, sustainable consumption and production, one of the most, let's say, known program, which is, let's say, Switch Med, has just launched, let's say, a specific component on blue economy, which again is part of the West Med work as well. I'd like also to refer towards, let's say, my conclusion to an handbook that is being produced on coastal and maritime tourism, in a view, let's say, to support the sustainable recovery of this very important sector that has suffered greatly during the COVID crisis. This has been done also with colleagues of the West Med, CPRM. We have been setting up a specific, let's say, and dedicated working group together with many different, let's say, experts in the area. And let's say the findings and suggestions for concrete action will be shared soon. This is just in a certain way to give you a flavor of the many activities that are being run, so time is never enough, let's say, to capture them all. I'd like to mention maybe also the work of UNESCO YOC, it was mentioned, which is of course something that we plan to build on again. It was a very important, let's say, step forward for the Western Mediterranean, and again represents a very important, let's say, access for future action also in the rest of the Mediterranean, as well as the work that is being done on sustainable blue finance. Let me conclude by saying that within the UFM, we are now working on the roadmap for the implementation of the Ministerial on Blue Economy. We have plenty of activities already, and indeed all the experience, the technical expertise, the projects that, let's say, the West Med is either leading or sharing also with the rest of the region to represent a very important, let's say, bulk of work, which we will surely capitalize also for next phase at regional level. So I give you the floor and I thank you very much, and sorry for taking a bit more of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à la We're already late, so Algeria, please. Mohamed Tifouri, who will talk to us about the strategy of developing the economy through European Union aid, and Pauline, who will present her expertise on that topic. So it's the floor is yours, Samir. Thank you very much, Monsieur Pierce. And I must also say that a blue economy, if I work on this, it also comes from the conference organized in Algeria at the 2018 summit, and it laid down a roadmap which created a certain dynamic on the national level. And so our partners also enabled us to develop this strategy. So I must also emphasize that from what I've heard today, and of course we share the same issues with respect to climate change, massive disappearance of species,
développement, littoralisation. Donc tout
impact
ça, ça fait
on
que nous avons effectivement des
ecosystems along
enjeux
the
liés à la
coastline,
biodiversité
etc. So
particulièrement et
we
qui elle-même
all
est un
have
moteur de
problems
l'économie bleue. Next.
and issues with respect
Donc
to
voilà,
climate
si
change
je dois
and its impact.
recontextualiser la côte algérienne
If
ou l'espace
I
maritime
should
national, je dirais qu'aujourd'hui,
contextualize
ces pressions se manifestent
with
par la présence d'un
the
Algérien sur 3
national
près des côtes,
fisheries, for
un Algérien
example,
sur
it's
5
one
pratiquement prend de l'eau potable qui
Algerian
est
of
dessalée,
3
donc d'où
lives
l'importance du
near
bon
the
état
coastline,
écologique. Le
and
PIB maritime,
the
c'est à peu près 20% du PIB national. Le PIB de la pêche et de
DGP,
l'aquaculture est encore faible, mais il est
the
en constante
gross
augmentation.
domestic product,
Souligner également
is
que
on the
l'espace
rise.
maritime
We
qui est
must
réservé à la pêche aujourd'hui, c'est autour de
also
9,7 millions
emphasize that what's
et rappelez
reserved for
peut-être que
the
la pêcherie
fisheries is
pélagique
quite
de l'Algérie, c'est une des
substantial,
premières
and the
pêchées de la
pelagic
Méditerranée au cours des 5 dernières années.
species is one
Et
of the
enfin,
major
je dois insister aussi
species
que la côte algérienne
fished
est
in
classée
recent
aussi
years, and the
un hotspot
Algerian
de la
coastline
biodiversité, mais
is
également, si on regarde un petit peu de
classified
plus
as a
près le
hot
rapport
spot
du
for
GIEC, c'est aussi un hotspot
biodiversity,
des
and
changements climatiques,
for
mais ce
the
n'est pas que la côte algérienne,
IPCC, it's
c'est la
also a
côte
hotspot for
nord-africaine,
climate
je
change,
dirais,
but not just
et un peu
Algeria,
plus
North
le
African,
bassin
I would say,
occidental.
and a bit
Voilà,
more
donc,
the Western Basin.
next.
So,
Alors, peut-être qu'il faut aussi souligner que cette stratégie ou ce développement de l'économie bleue en Algérie s'inscrit en droite ligne du plan d'action du gouvernement qui a été adopté il y a quelques jours, le 30 août 2021, donc il y a moins d'une dizaine de jours, ce programme d'action qui vise notamment la modernisation du secteur de la pêche et de l'aquaculture, la digitalisation du secteur maritime, comme les autres secteurs, mais aussi l'intégration des secteurs. Donc, quand on parle d'intégration des secteurs, je dois aussi rappeler que l'économie
when I mean
bleue place les
integration, I
chaînes de
mean that
valeur
blue
au sommet de ces
economy
préoccupations.
places
Et ceci aussi
the
s'inscrit, cette
it
stratégie
on
sur
the
l'économie
scale
bleue s'inscrit dans la droite ligne aussi
of the
de
Mediterranean,
la
and
stratégie du plan quinquennal
the
2021-2024 qui vise
5-year
notamment
plan
le développement de l'aquaculture, le développement de la construction et de la réparation navale,
2024
le bon
also
état
deals
écologique
with
également et la maîtrise de la
the
pêche et des régulations aussi
shipbuilding
des
as
activités
well,
qui sont liées à la pêche.
fisheries
Next.
and all activities linked to fisheries.
Voilà, alors
So,
tout ceci ne sort pas
here
d'un
we
contexte
have,
aussi
this
régional
does
parce que la
not
côte algérienne ou l'espace
all
maritime
come out
national
of a
fait partie de
regional
l'espace
context,
ouest
because the
méditerranéen et un peu plus de l'espace méditerranéen.
Algerian
Et donc,
region is also
nous nous inscrivons
in
totalement dans les
the context of
perspectives,
the
dans les
Western
dynamiques, dans les initiatives, dans les
Mediterranean, and so
programmes, dans les
we're also
déclarations
part of
qui
the
nous concernent tous en
initiatives and
Méditerranée.
perspectives
Quelqu'un a
of
dit
the
avant moi aujourd'hui
Mediterranean.
que nous
Somebody
dépendons
said
les uns
before
des
me
autres
today
et les solutions
that
que nous pouvons apporter
you
les uns
know,
par rapport aux autres ne peuvent pas être
the
efficaces si nous
solutions that
n'avons
we
pas une
could bring
action
one to
synergique et si ces
to
solutions ne sont
another
pas
won't
partagées avec des
work
dynamiques
if we don't have
collectives
the
et
synergy
participatives. Donc
and
c'est pour cela qu'en
joint
2017,
work
l'Algérie a
together
été
and participative work together.
elle a été signataire de la
So we have signatories
Med Fish Forever. En 2018 et également,
in
donc l'Algérie
2018,
a
Algeria
engagé aussi des processus par
also
rapport
was
à la
engaged in
stratégie
a
nationale de gestion
process
intégrée des
for
eaux
the
côtières en 2015, mais qui a
national
été mise à jour en
strategy
2021,
of
donc adaptée au nouveau
integrating
contexte, au
the
nouveau challenge, mais surtout
coastal
cette stratégie
zones
nationale sur l'économie bleue
and
qui décrit, on le
blue
voit dans la
economy
prochaine slide, qui
strategy.
décrit
On the
un
next
petit peu
slide, it
l'action du
describes
gouvernement ou l'action de la
the
société ou
action
l'action de
of the
l'État en
government
mer.
and the
Next.
society and the
Voilà,
state
cette
at
action
sea.
de l'État en mer avec
This
des
action
axes
of the
d'intervention
state at
prioritaires, une vision
sea,
commune partagée par
it's
l'ensemble
a
des acteurs
joint
et notamment aussi de la
vision
société
that
civile
is
et des
shared
acteurs
by
économiques et
the
scientifiques, voilà, l'ensemble des
stakeholders
acteurs.
and civil
Alors cette stratégie,
society,
justement, elle définit cette vision, elle
economic
décline les
players
axes
as well,
d'orientation
and
stratégique,
they
mais elle permet surtout
describe and lay
d'identifier des
down
fiches
the
d'action
various
qui font l'objet
focuses
de financement
of the
aujourd'hui
strategy,
avec le
and
soutien
of
de l'Union
course
européenne, mais aussi
financing with
d'autres sources de
European
financement
funding.
qui tendraient
That's
justement
an important
à mettre
source
en
of
œuvre cette stratégie.
financing
Alors, ce qui est important à
in
souligner
order
là-dessus, c'est
to
que
implement
ces
our
fiches techniques de projet
strategies. Of course, these
sont élaborées de manière à ce qu'elles
terms
soient
of
cohérentes avec les
reference for
stratégies
these
sectorielles, mais
projects,
surtout
of
qu'elles
course,
tiennent compte
are important
de la
for
dynamique
the
et
sectorial
des
strategies,
caractéristiques
but
ternaires.
also
Donc
for the
cette interaction
dynamics
terre-mer
and
est aujourd'hui au
characteristics
centre
of
de la gestion intégrée des eaux côtières en
the
Algérie, mais
land
surtout
and
de la
sea
stratégie nationale sur l'économie bleue.
dynamics.
Next. Voilà,
So
comme toute stratégie, c'est une stratégie qui a une approche globale, qui a été faite avec une dimension participative et qui décline, je l'espère en tout cas, une gouvernance maritime à différentes échelles du territoire et qui tient compte aussi des enjeux qui vont au-delà du territoire national sur les problèmes de pollution, qui ne connaît pas de frontières, sur les espèces, sur le problème d'espèces non indigènes, sur les espèces toxiques, mais aussi sur l'exploitation en haute mer ou au large, parce que c'est certain aussi
on
des orientations du
exploiting
gouvernement
the high
algérien, une
seas,
d'action
for example,
quinquennale,
because the
d'aller explorer
Algerian
et pêcher
government, in its
au
five-year plan,
large avec
will
des segments peut-être
explore
biologiques nouveaux sur des
the
écosystèmes nouveaux.
fishing,
Donc tout ceci
offshore fishing, and so
impose dans le cadre de la
this
stratégie
all
la
within
construction
the
d'une
framework of the
vision par rapport à l'observation, la
strategy
surveillance, le monitoring,
actually
mais tout ceci
imposes
est intégré
monitoring
évidemment
and
parce que
structuring,
les
but
connexions entre
it also has to be
les
integrated
activités sont
because
tout à fait
the
perceptibles.
interconnection
Et donc cette
amongst the
stratégie 2030,
various
justement, elle
activities
permet d'organiser
is quite obvious.
cette économie maritime,
And this
mais in
maritime
fine, elle s'appuie
economy
surtout sur un bon état
really
écologique
relies
pour
on
lequel
good
l'Algérie et les pays de la Méditerranée
ecological
activent communément et
conditions.
conjointement dans le cadre de la
And of
Convention de
course,
Barcelone,
here
justement à travers des programmes comme
Algeria is
l'IMAP
involved
ou des
in
programmes par
the
rapport à la politique
Barcelona
de l'espace maritime,
Convention
donc à
as well.
l'initiative aussi la COI UNESCO. Voilà,
And the
donc il y a
UNESCO
une interconnexion d'abord entre les stratégies nationales, mais aussi
I
entre les initiatives au niveau régional. J'aurais pu citer aussi BlueMed, qui apporte de l'appui
regional
scientifique fiable à la prise de décision en
activities
matière
and
d'économie bleue et en matière
decisions
de bon état
taken in
écologique.
terms of
Next.
blue economy, but this all depends on good
Voilà, donc je vais
economic
céder la parole
conditions,
à
as
M.
I said.
Tifouri qui
So now I
va
will ask
décliner le
Mr.
programme d'appui.
Tifouri, who will look in more detail
Merci.
at the blue economy.
Honorable
Thank you.
assistance, bonsoir. Ensuite, à
Good
mon collègue,
evening
j'ai le plaisir de
to
vous
all of
présenter le
you at a
programme d'appui
distance.
à l'économie bleue,
As my colleague said,
dont
I am
mon pays a
pleased to
bénéficié dans le cadre d'un
present
financement de
the
l'Union européenne du développement
blue
global
economy
de
thanks
22
to
millions
European
d'euros.
funding of
Ce
more
programme
than
ambitionne le développement
22
durable de
million
l'économie bleue,
euros.
notamment pour le
This
secteur de la pêche
blue
et de
economy
l'aquaculture, et
for
contribuera
aquaculture
ainsi à
and
la
fisheries
diversification
will
de la
contribute
croissance de l'économie nationale.
to
Le ministère de la
national
Pêche est le
economic
secteur
growth.
bénéficiaire
The
et
fisheries
ce programme sera
ministries
exécuté par
and
l'Agence
the
européenne
benefiting
Expertise France avec le
sectors
concours de l'Agence européenne de contrôle des pêches.
also have the assistance of the European fishing control entity.
Le choix du secteur est motivé par l'étendue de
choice
son
of the
champ d'action
sector,
étalé sur
the
toute la
gentleman
bande
is
côtière, mais
speaking with
aussi
a
pour ses
mask
capacités
on, and
intrinsèques
the
lui
interpreter
permettant de
cannot
fédérer
hear
l'ensemble
correctly
des
what
acteurs
is
de
said.
l'économie bleue. Et ce, pour le développement de nouvelles opportunités
For the
économiques
development of
viables,
new
socialement acceptables,
opportunities
ceci dans le
that are
respect de la
socially
durabilité environnementale.
acceptable
Ainsi,
in
le
compliance
programme
with
vise la résilience des
environmental
villes côtières par l'offre de nouvelles
sustainability.
opportunités pour la
There are
création
new
d'emplois au profit des
opportunities
communautés riveraines à travers notamment l'innovation et la mise en
for
place
the
de
local
la planification
inhabitants
des espaces maritimes.
and
Le programme se
planification
concentrera
of
dans un second
maritime
volet sur
space.
l'amélioration des conditions de travail des
There
pêcheurs
is an
artisans
improvement
pour
of
accroître
the
leurs revenus et ainsi
conditions
améliorer leur
of
cadre de vie et
local
ceux de leurs
fishermen.
familles. Le programme d'appui apportera aussi une réponse aux définitions et exigences d'encadrement et de rapportage auprès des instances régionales de régulation par l'appropriation de capacités opérationnelles de suivi, de contrôle et de gestion de la pêche sur
Monitoring
l'ensemble du
and
territoire.
control
Next.
of all of the fisheries throughout the territory.
Voilà, qu'il me soit permis à présent de vous dérouler un exemple de deux
So
actions
now
définies
I
dans le
would just
cadre de
like to
l'exécution
mention
du programme d'appui,
two
dont le calendrier de ces actions
actions that
s'étalera
were
sur les 4
conducted
prochaines années. Action
and
7 du
will
programme
be
visant à relever l'ambition du
deployed
plan
over
de
the
gestion
next
régionaux pour
2
maintenir les
years.
ressources halieutiques à un niveau de production maximale
It's
durable,
fishing
tout en assurant l'atteinte des
on the
objectifs tracés en
national
matière de
level
développement économique et de sécurité alimentaire. Cette
with
action se
respect
déclinera
to
notamment par
economic
le développement de chaînes de valeur
and
aquacoles
food
durables,
safety
ainsi que le développement de zones de pêche
and
réglementées par l'engagement d'un
development
processus
of
de GISC.
regulatory
Ceci
fishing
sera
zones.
matérialisé par la mise en place d'un système
This
d'information pour
is
le suivi et
materialized
l'observation des
by
ressources
a
halieutiques
system of
ainsi que d'un centre
information
de surveillance des
regarding
pêches.
fishing and fishing surveillance.
Aussi, les structures
The structures.
L'autre action phare vise la durabilité de la pêche artisanale. Une attention particulière sera portée pour le développement de chaînes de valeur de ce segment, ainsi qu'un renforcement des capacités dont bénéficieront les artisans pêcheurs. Cette action sera consolidée par l'accompagnement dispensé aux structures professionnelles et par la réponse à leurs préoccupations qu'apportera le développement de capacités de recherche et d'innovation en matière de techniques de pêche adaptées. Aussi, des structures d'accompagnement seront mises en place pour favoriser l'entrepreneuriat et l'émergence de start-up dans le domaine de l'économie bleue circulaire. Tout cela fait que les actions inscrites au titre du programme dont je vous ai fait l'économie de sa présentation constituent une action majeure pour l'action en Méditerranée.
constitutes major action in the Mediterranean.
Voilà, au plaisir de vous rencontrer pour de futures présentations de phases d'exécution du programme d'appui de l'économie bleue pour la pêche et l'aquaculture en Algérie. Je vous remercie pour votre aimable attention.
At future meeting. Thank you very much, Monsieur Grimes and Mr. Tifouri. Pauline, now, if you can just say a few words on behalf of Expertise France, who's one of the leaders of this program. Yes, I'll be very brief because I know we're already running late. As the General Secretariat had mentioned, we are running late, and the French-Algerian cooperation. They are all very proud of bearing this project with Algeria because it's a multi-partner, multi-topic. The question of security at sea, irregular, uncontrolled fishing as well, and they handle the fish stock, aquaculture, coastal erosion are all questions that are part of climate change issues, and so this mobilizes four topics, and we're very proud to do this in Algeria thanks to European funding.
Very well. So now we will hear from Tunisia. There is also, I will call on the floor Mr. Bozio as well, but first Mr. Milady, who is online. The floor is yours.
Mesdames, Messieurs,
thank you very much, Frederick.
Le projet WestMed a permis de créer une dynamique entre les 10 pays de la Méditerranée occidentale pour la promotion de l'économie bleue dans notre région et le développement aussi bien des secteurs traditionnels que des secteurs émergents liés à la mer. Et cela dans le cadre d'une préservation de l'environnement et de la biodiversité. En effet, et comme vous le savez, la Méditerranée est une mer quasi fermée qui représente moins de 1% de l'océan et elle est bordée par 21 pays riverains qui comptent 400 millions d'habitants et abrite une grande diversité biologique. Cette mer fait l'objet d'une forte pression liée à l'activité humaine, résultant notamment de la croissance des populations humaines, du trafic maritime,
above all, caused by overpopulation as well as industries. Among other factors, this pressure is growing because specific marine resources are being overexploited. There's more and more pollution coming from the urban water. It is essential to know our marine heritage so we can maintain our knowledge. It is essential to preserve our potential resources. That's why we need to reinforce the means of raising awareness, of doing communication, and of understanding the sea better. Our synergy could help reduce this pressure and coordinate the different actions. It could also contribute share experience, especially above all for observation methods. This initiative is an opportunity, as one of the 6 priorities is to protect the environment and biodiversity. There are different working groups that were created by WestMed. There is a working group about sustainable biodiversity, about transport, but also about blue skills, and these working groups have led to the creation of action plan that involved operators from the 10 member countries, and we were able to put forward a relevant proposal for the whole West Med region. In our region, the West Med, the blue economy is an opportunity. For example, professional training and higher education should follow the lead, so they are not an obstacle to the development. We need to adjust our systems. It is a reality for the countries of the Southern Shores. Not all sectors of the blue economy find the skills they need. That's why the cooperation between Tunisia, Italy, and France, sponsored by WestMed, deserves our attention. A program was finalized, and it will aim to do some capacity building in the Maghreb. Two webinars were organized along with the WestMed team, with clusters from the 3 countries, with some universities, in order to train students and to create blue economy programs in universities. I would like to thank the maritime clusters, the union, and each partner that reinforce our cooperation and the dialogue between clusters. The building capacity between the north and the south and the south. And I would like to thank them for their efforts, put forward for our maritime activities. To conclude with, blue economy is an asset, but we need to encourage investment in nature. We also need to give the priority to nature-based solutions, because they give us an immediate advantage. They could also enhance economic development and help us resist to climate change. Thanks for your attention. Thank you very much for your words from Tunisia. And now I turn towards Italy before giving the floor to Malta. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you. I would like to bear witness of what the Italian experience with what happened in Italy and about our cooperation with Tunisia. We have identified this cooperation for a long time for geographical, political, and cultural reasons, and moreover, we have this relationship comes really naturally. In 2020, the Italian cluster, the technological cluster, and Italian technological cluster, and an Italian and the Tunisian cluster signed a memorandum that defines the cooperation of both countries in this sector. This memorandum covers a wide array of sectors, from aquaculture to sea, renewable energies, and land and sea planning. And thanks to this partnership, Tunisia take part in the project Intermed Be Blue, driven by an environmental agency in Italy, and it is one of the 4 main sponsors of the WestMed initiative, with the capacity building in both shores of the Mediterranean. Tunisia holds a really interesting project, since it wants to create a cluster network in Maghreb, and plans to create another one for the Arab League. It is really important because clusters are in line with a bottom-up approach, the bottom-up approach adopted by WestMed. I would like to thank my Tunisian colleagues because they have the will as well as the capacity to promote this integration, and this is crucial. The MedBe project carried out in Italy, or rather run by Italy, shows that the cluster collaboration offers us an asset because it develops synergies in common objectives. We work as partners with people who have experience in the blue economy sector. It brings together 8 countries of the Mediterranean and over 300 Mediterranean actors, that is, universities and so on. It is a network bringing together different actors in order to enhance a global and regional capacities in order to generate innovation. And if I may, I would like to add that Italy has a really diversified cluster sector that has been recently rationalized, because on one hand we have a national technological cluster based on research, on universities, but among its members there you can find SMEs and local authorities and big companies like ENI, the oil company, and Fincantiere. Italy also has a federation, the Federation of the Sea, as we call it, that brings together all industries of the sector, and this sector accounts for 2% of the national GDP and covers about 200,000 jobs. There are also indirect jobs for 2 million people. The merger of these two clusters will make it possible because it was done recently. So this merger will help us have a more integrated approach with major synergies between research and industry. And we'll see how it goes. And fortunately, unlike France, Italy doesn't have any coordination center for activities carried out on the sea, and I hope we will be able to develop one in the private sector very soon in Italy. Thank you. Thank you for your testimonial. I think the coordinator from Malta is here. You mentioned the cooperation between Italy and Tunisia. Well, France has signed an agreement with Tunisia between the French cluster and the Mediterranean competitiveness cluster. And now, Jason.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you say a few words? Yes, you can start.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to this event. I know that we are very late on schedule, so I will be very brief in my intervention. The Mediterranean coast and seas have the potential to deliver sustainable blue growth and jobs in the coming years. There is a clear need for the countries, through governments, education, institutions, and the industry, to channel maritime activities into employment opportunities by investing in new blue skills and career development. So, within the national Maltese context, a variety of jobs in the research, innovation, and development aspects of the field are offered mainly by the University of Malta, supported by the funding opportunities provided by the Malta Council for Science and Technology. The Malta Science Council for Science and Technology, in fact, and other private institutes also provide seafarer education and training. The IMO International Maritime Law Institute, which is established in Malta, also offers blue career opportunities in relation to the maritime legal services. Whilst at the national level, these institutes provide an ecosystem for research initiatives and vocational training, there also remains untapped opportunities for cooperation between countries in the Mediterranean region to tackle common challenges. At the Western Mediterranean region, there is a clear scope to unlock new sustainable source of growth, which will not only translate into monetary gains, but will also have a positive impact on the social aspect. Cooperation between countries in the sub-region for the development and implementation of joint actions would not only help tackle common challenges, such as those to the fishing and aquaculture sectors, but also creates high value-added opportunities. The maritime and biotechnology sectors, ocean energy, and marine literacy undeniably contribute towards the prospects of the blue economy to improve the living standards of coastal regions. That's all from my end. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Last account now. We're on the road. We see the light at the end of the tunnel. Morocco, the problem with the anti-local uncontrolled fishing. You have the floor, sir. You can start, Mr. Hamidan. The floor is yours. We are ready. Please go to the next slide.
Monsieur l'ambassadeur pour le maritime et les ports, messieurs les
ambassador for maritime affairs, honorable delegate and representative, ladies and gentlemen, it is a real pleasure for me to be here with you today remotely from my country, the Kingdom of Morocco. Upon the initiative of West Med to present this account talking about the uncontrolled fishing. This is a major risk to all of the species and that are fished and the economic development as well. The sound is not coming across.
Le Royaume du Maroc, qui a deux fleuves maritimes,
the Kingdom of Morocco
dans la lutte contre
works
depuis 2000 la performance
against uncontrolled fishing. There is no sound.
Slide suivant, s'il vous plaît. De stratégie IUTIS, la durabilité, la compétitivité et dans le contrôle d'habilité constitue un projet phare de stratégie nationale. Il a réussi.
There is a technical problem with this speaker. On the screen, we see the legal instruments of the past. I think that we have a serious problem of connection here, and I suggest we end the Morocco's intervention. This presentation has been cut short because of technical problems. Okay, so now the next slide. I just wanted to talk about the cooperation with the WestMed, with this virtual academy of the anti-illegal fishing, because it is such a huge problem. And based on this initial idea, there has been a new commitment by the European Union for approximately 1 million euros in the struggle against illegal fishing. So now the next slide, just to end here. I think there are no questions from the room, or at least I hope there aren't. We're running so late. So, Mr. Secretary General, if you please, would you like to say your closing words? Yes, very quickly then, I just wanted to thank all of you for your participation in such difficult conditions. I acknowledge the fact, but here at the, I think it was important that at the World Nature Congress of the IUCN, we talk of the WestMed, and because I feel that, as we saw today, they really mobilize several countries, and through their results that they achieve, they do create a real solidarity amongst these Mediterranean countries, and it really had its place here at this World Nature Congress. And it should really be, over the long term, each time just a little step further. And what's relevant with WestMed is that I find that this feeling that we all have, that the right level of action, territorially speaking, is the maritime basin. And of course there is the coastline is very important, but without the maritime basin, the rest has no real true meaning. France is just incredibly lucky to have several oceans lapping at its coast, and there are a lot of the countries around its basins, and there's an Atlantic strategy as well, the European Atlantic Basin as well, and it is also being supported by the European Union and Commission. And in France, there is a new basin strategy in the North Sea with this European basin strategy. So all of these basin strategies are absolutely essential, and I found that today WestMed in Marseille is a wonderful illustration of this ambition that we all bear within us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Monsieur Robin. I spoke way too much today, but what I wish to say is that Westmed should be an example of how we can get nature conservation linked up with sustainable development. We talk of sustainable development, of blue economy, but when we talk about these two notions, we also ensure the revenues and income and the livelihood of people who live around the sea, and conservation of the environment as well. That's the approach of the WestMed initiative, and it really is it hooks up the conservation with livelihood. It can't guarantee the maintaining the environment in good condition and developing wealth as well. And so that really is what gives us hope. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The presentations that were that went on today will be online. So the conference of the stakeholders will take place on the 9th of November. All of them, you can sign up and discuss and we can have dialogue on this topic. And now I invite you to the cocktail. Thank you. Thank you very much.